Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Meet Wanda and become the strongest saint. Chapter 41. On the back of the Phoenix sacred cloth, there are two protrusions that are difficult to detect. If it can be strengthened, a pair of phoenix wings can be formed. However, Subai does not have the water of the Holy Lake, and he is not sure whether using the water of the Holy Lake for strengthening will have such an obvious effect. After all, the holy cloth of the Phoenix has changed a lot compared to before. Entering took a new form. Subai moved her body, and the holy garment looked gorgeous, almost fully covering it. It was not only comfortable, but also allowed Subai to experience an amplifying effect, echoing the guardian constellation Phoenix. To what extent has the defense increased? Subai was thinking about testing it when he found that Diana had walked out of the castle. Your holy clothes are different. At first glance, Diana discovered the difference in the Phoenix Saint cloth. Growing up on Paradise Island, Diana has been interested in these armors since she was a child. She has shown her love for Subai's holy clothes before. Now that she looks at them again, it is impossible not to envy them. But before Diana could take a closer look, Subai said, "Diana, pick up your god-killing sword and try it, and attack me." Diana immediately understood that Subai wanted to test it, so he drew out the god-killing sword from his waist, lowered his body's center of gravity, and made a standard offensive posture. Diana turned around and turned into an afterimage. She quickly slashed out a sword, and the surrounding trees fell to both sides, as if a strong wind was blowing. Subai, who was opposite her, actually stretched out his hand and grabbed it directly in the direction where the god-killing sword was struck. Without any sound, the god-killing sword fell into Subai's hand, like a fallen leaf floating on a rock. "Diana, don't hold back, use all your strength." When Diana heard this, a serious expression appeared on her face. This time, she stepped back a long distance and reminded, "I'm coming." Leaping high, Diana is like an eagle with spread wings. She is now a demigod body without godhood, and her strength is between the early and middle stages of the sixth sense. When this sword is struck, many sparks are born out of thin air in the air, as if being struck by as if it was torn apart, a wave of air rippled out, with astonishing power. This time, Subai still did not use any power, but used the palm of his hand wrapped in gauntlet to collide with Diana's god-killing sword. The sound of ring, ring, ring reminded me of the moment the god-killing sword collided with the holy clothes. The sword actually began to tremble, and a huge amount of reaction force directly forced Diana back without any precautions. The defense power is really amazing. Diana was surprised when she withstood Subai's holy clothes. Her full attack failed to break through the defense. This holy garment has become stronger again. Subai nodded with satisfaction. When facing Aries again, at least it wouldn't seem difficult. The moment the two were gesturing, a simple car stopped outside the castle. The person standing next to the car was the British Foreign Secretary, who came to invite Subai and Diana to an important meeting. In the next half-month, the Prime Minister would send someone to communicate with Subai every day and invite Subai to participate in the discussion of some matters. The reputation of the new Duke and Grand Duchess who promoted peace gradually spread and left a mark in history. An important stroke. Almost no noble's opinion can be so valued by the cabinet, except for Subai and Diana. In the past half-month, Subai naturally did not give up the cultivation of the small universe, and his strength became increasingly better, and he gained a lot of insights from the galaxy starburst. Subai, early this morning, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and the Kingdom of Bulgaria, the three core countries of the Allied powers, have declared an armistice and will resolve the issue at the negotiating table with the Allied powers. In the early morning of this morning, Diana brought back good news. The war in Europe gradually subsided. Among them, only Germany was still making large-scale military deployments and making final resistance. Subai woke up from his cultivation state and asked, "How is the progress at the holy place? Have you found any trace of Aries?" "No, but Aries will never just watch peace come. Maybe he has already made many moves secretly." As if to confirm Diana's words, not long after she finished speaking, a car hurriedly stopped at the gate of the castle. A major in military uniform got out of the car with an anxious face and an encrypted urgent message in his hand. Subai raised his eyebrows and patted Diana on the shoulder. "That's right, it's time for us to get busy." After taking the letter and opening it, it turned out that the smoke on the battlefield was rising again. Germany, which had not signed an armistice agreement, launched a raid on northeastern France in the early morning. They used a new type of poison gas weapon, and one of the special teams easily clashed the defense line built by the fortress is difficult to kill with bullets and explosives. The German army began its final madness. The poison gas invented by the Germans can penetrate gas masks and cause mass destruction to ordinary soldiers. However, that special team can withstand bullets. It is probably injected with something similar to a body-strengthening agent. Subai knew in his heart that neither poison gas nor body-strengthening agents were technologies that should appear in this era. Even if this is the world of American comics, it is impossible to popularize it on a large scale now. Some people are pushing for the continuation of this war, that is, Aries, no doubt. Diana, who has been paying close attention to the progress of the war, was also slightly surprised. The German army's armaments have reached an extreme level. The German soldiers have no bullets, no medicine, and even no guarantee of food and clothing. It is simply unbelievable that they are still. He was willing to continue the war, invented poison gas, and formed a powerful commando team. Subai, the British and American coalition forces cannot withstand this wave of offensive. If we want to truly promote peace, we should take action. Diana looked to the southeast. Her eyes seemed to span the entire English Channel, reaching the border between Germany and France, and witnessed the battlefield. Countless poisonous gases spread, and the lives of soldiers were taken away. Aries was resurrected again, holding the power of war. Diana couldn't accept it. Indeed, Subai nodded and looked at the end of the letter. The Prime Minister who wrote the letter stated that after investigation by intelligence personnel, it was basically confirmed that the poison gas manufacturing factory was located at the foot of the Alps. Subai feels that the production site of the strengthening agent is probably in the same place. Britain and France have formed a special force to destroy the poison gas factory. The two of us will set off immediately. Diana, what do you think? As soon as Subai finished speaking, Diana nodded firmly. In her opinion, the sooner we set off, the better. Both of them had small space equipment and nothing that needed special arrangement. They crossed the English Channel that afternoon and arrived at a place only 200 kilometers away from the German-French border. Both of them were half flying and half walking. As they advanced, they passed several positions and passed a large military camp of the British and American coalition forces. When you really come to the battlefield, you can hear the thundering sound of artillery and the gliding sound of aircraft flying at low altitude at any time. Everything is very uncomfortable. On muddy roads and simple tents, the wounded were carried out one by one. They were missing arms and legs. Some of them were very terrifying. Their skin had been eroded into a green color, and their faces could not be seen clearly, but they were still screaming on the stretchers. Obviously, this is the effect of a new type of poison gas. When Subai and Diana flew above the clouds, there were soldiers in various miserable conditions on the roadside. No wonder Germany is willing to continue the war, they see hope of a comeback. Seeing all this, Subai felt a little uncomfortable. He had been to the gate of Hades and had seen the real undead, but facing these disabled soldiers, he really felt the cruelty of war. Not to mention the frowning Diana who just wanted to end this war urgently. As early as half a month ago, artillery fire had reached the city walls of Berlin, but now the battle line has been pushed back to the border between France and Germany, and it is very likely to be breached. The cruelty and fear of the gas war are indeed unacceptable. The more tragic elephants they saw, the heavier Subai and Diana's hearts became. They hurried a little faster, and the two of them arrived at the foot of the Alps before the sun set. It was unexpectedly quiet in the mountains. Apart from the sound of insects, there was only the gurgling water. There was no sound in the dense forest. The Alps run through the entire southern part of Germany. Subai used the small universe to explore, but it also took some effort. He couldn't help but secretly thought in his heart, the British and French Allied forces sent a team composed of elite veterans to break into the Alps. I don't know what happened. Just as he was thinking about this, Subai sensed a fierce fight taking place on the other side of the valley in front of him, and rushed over with Diana. A soldier wearing a U.S. military uniform was fighting with 3 German soldiers holding giant machetes. Subai's eyes were fixed on this battle. These 3 German soldiers were indeed strange. Their bodies were slightly stiff, but their strength was absolutely outstanding. They were holding broadswords that would never appear on a modern battlefield and wave them around at will, can cut down a big tree. These 3 people should be soldiers who have been injected with body drugs. But what really caught Subai's attention was the American soldier. The most distinctive thing about that soldier was not the full beard, his vigorous skills, or his wolf-like roar, but the 3 bone claws piercing each of his hands. Subai's eyes flashed with amusement. The soldier's face was familiar to him. I didn't expect it to be Wolverine, Logan. Although the 3 German soldiers have experienced strengthening, from an operational point of view, they should have the function of deputy generals. How can they be Logan's opponents? In just 1 minute, 3 German soldiers were stabbed into a honeycomb shape by Logan. However, Logan could not escape. A team of nearly 50 people quickly emerged from the depths of the dense forest, forming a small encirclement. Logan grinned ferociously. There's a little trouble. A slightly ferocious smile appeared on Logan's face, but before he could take action, there was a strong sound of wind in the forest. Is it windy at this time? Logan raised his brows, still staring at these strange German soldiers. His company is an elite company. This morning, he accepted the mission to sneak in quietly and prepare to destroy a factory. Unexpectedly, after an encounter, he was the only one who escaped from the entire company, came out and all the others were arrested. These strange German troops in front of us have 2 or 3 times the combat effectiveness of ordinary soldiers. If it weren't for Logan's unique ability, he might have become a prisoner. However, dealing with nearly 50 German soldiers at the same time is also a challenge for Logan now. All the bone claws were exposed, and the tension reached its peak. Just when Logan was about to take action, there was another strong gust of wind. However, this gust of wind was obviously different from the previous ones. It was a spiral airflow pressed down from the top of his head. For some reason, Logan's pupils opened to their maximum size, the hairs all over his body stood up, and his instinct was giving an early warning. Whenever there is a life-threatening situation, something like this will happen. A powerful existence has arrived. Logan hurriedly looked up, and suddenly a phoenix silhouette appeared in his eyes. He spread his wings and flapped slightly, and an overwhelming force struck from above. This huge force is naturally not directed at Logan. From top to bottom, in just one breath, the surrounding German soldiers were knocked to the ground by the huge force, their heads and hearts exploded, and they lost their ability to survive. The jungle returned to a quiet state, as if nothing happened. Logan's pupils shrank, and there was a surprised expression on his face. The person who came was more powerful than he thought, at least he couldn't do it so neatly. One trick to solve it. Logan didn't dare to let down his guard at all. His nose moved slightly and he immediately turned to the left. He stared at the man who suddenly appeared. This guy had an Asian face, wore a brown coat, and had a relaxed expression, as if he was just doing something casually. Logan knew that this was definitely not an act. He killed nearly 50 people in an instant. This Asian was very powerful. He couldn't help but secretly thought to himself, this guy is the big trouble. Is he an enemy or a friend? Immediately afterwards, the entire ground trembled slightly, and another figure fell. Hey, Subai, don't you leave a few for me. I haven't practiced for a long time. This is definitely the most beautiful woman Logan has ever seen, but Logan will not go up to say hello, because when this woman falls, the sunken ground is enough to prove how terrifying her power is. Logan couldn't help but cursed secretly in his mind, we encountered a monster. But then I thought about it, and it seemed like I was a monster too. Logan, don't be nervous, we are not enemies. After Subai finished speaking, Logan became even more vigilant, frowning slightly and said, do you know my name? Definitely, I have seen a lot of your comic movies. Subai chuckled in his heart, but that was not what he said. The British and American coalition forces sent an elite team to raid the German poison gas processing factory. The British Prime Minister and the Commander-in-Chief Ben wanted me to be in charge, but I refused. You're supposed to be one of the commandos, Logan. You should definitely refuse, because even the elite soldiers can only hold you back. You are a real danger. Logan's eyes flashed with cold light, and he did not lower his guard at all. The appearance of Subai and Diana was too strange, and the powerful power they displayed made his nerves tense. How are the commandos doing? Where are the others? Subai tried to resolve Logan's hostility, but soon discovered that this was in vain. Logan stopped answering and treated Subai like an enemy. Diana said, a little dissatisfied, "We can't continue to hesitate here. This soldier does have some special abilities, but he is not our target." Subai shrugged helplessly, and the power of the small universe spread again. In less than a minute, he detected signs of life activity 2 kilometers away. In less than a minute, Logan's hair suddenly stood up, like a real wolf, so fierce that his teeth were exposed. This one called Subai is too dangerous. Fortunately, Subai was not prepared to wait too long. He took action to solve Logan's troubles entirely because he liked Wolverine's film and television image. He believed that even if he did not take action, Logan could solve his troubles. Unfortunately, in a cruel environment like the battlefield, Logan was too wary, and the first meeting was not very friendly. When Subai and Diana left, Logan's bone claws, which were stained with blood, still didn't retract. It wasn't until the 2 figures disappeared completely that Logan took a breath, but soon he looked in the direction Subai left. "They are going to that weird town." Logan originally wanted to wait until nightfall to rescue his comrades, but now, a question appeared in his mind: should he follow these 2 dangerous guys? After hesitating for a moment, Logan chose to follow. Subai and Diana are extremely dangerous people, but Logan is really worried about his comrades, fearing that something shocking will happen. His nose moved slightly, and his keen sense of smell could identify friends and foes, and could also be used for tracking. The soldier is following. What Logan didn't expect was that all his little moves would fall into the eyes of Subai and Diana. Diana just felt that Logan's aura was amazing and his hands had weird bone claws. There was nothing special about him, so she gave him a reminder and didn't take it too seriously. Being able to meet Wolverine on the battlefield of World War I was a strange feeling for Subai, but that was all. Subai and Diana rushed forward very quickly, and soon, a Western European-style town appeared in their eyes. This town is located in a valley and is easy to defend but difficult to attack. Many forts have been built at key points and commanding heights. Soldiers are constantly patrolling back and forth and are heavily guarded. After entering the early morning invasion by the Wolverine team, many soldiers were added for defense. But for Subai and Diana, it is really too simple. Subai and Diana approached the town, and soon attracted the attention of the German army. Logan, who was following the 2 of them, did not expect that the 2 of them would move forward as if they were nothing. But thinking of Subai's punch from the sky, Logan felt it was understandable. As soon as this thought arose, the scene in front of him immediately overturned his cognition. The red light lit up on the tower, and the guarding Germans began the first round of strafing. If Diana's performance was astonishing, and she could deflect bullets with a casual wave of her hand, then Subai was even better. The machine gunner on the tower had beads of sweat on his forehead. No matter how he aimed at Subai, all the bullets reached Subai's side and all turned inexplicably and flew to unknown places. Subai casually took a photo, and a tower 1,000 meters away collapsed. Another casual flash, and a bunker in the distance was directly bulldozed. Wolverine Logan, who took all this into consideration, couldn't help but open his eyes wide and open his mouth, watching all of this in disbelief. Because there are anti-aging factors in his body, Logan's true age is much older than he appears, but this is the first time in his life that he has seen such a powerful force. Previously, Subai's punch from the sky had brought panic. At the moment, from the perspective of a bystander, Logan was really shocked. This is not the power that humans should have at all, it's too powerful. Logan sighed, and suddenly a lot of curiosity and doubts arose in his heart, but he had no intention of asking Subai. The battle at the moment can no longer be called a battle. Even a big-hearted man like Logan was shocked by Subai's power, let alone an ordinary German soldier. Some German soldiers had already dropped their guns, screamed and trembled and chose to run away. However, those who had been injected with body-strengthening drugs seemed to have eliminated their fear, but still chose to fight to the end. Subai casually dealt with a strengthened German soldier, and couldn't help but think of Captain America and the super soldier serum. The strengthened German soldiers in front of them were as if they had been injected with a weakened version of the super soldier serum. Their physical fitness had been strengthened, but their brain nerves should have been affected to a certain extent, making them a bit dull. The defense line that the German army relied on for survival was easily torn open, and soon dark green poisonous gas floated out from the center of the town. At this time, Subai looked in the direction of Logan and shouted, "What are you doing standing still? Your comrades are going to be poisoned." Logan hid behind a big tree in a hurry, and his expression immediately became very ugly. Unexpectedly, Subai had discovered him long ago, and cursed, "What a monster, can you even guess what I am thinking?" Meanwhile, on the other side of the Alps, in Austria, in a light blue square, a bloody red dot is constantly rotating, which is exactly the godhead of the god of war. This is a dim underground space. Only when wisps of blood-red light float from the outside can it illuminate the surrounding environment. It is a medieval-style, magnificent underground palace. In the deepest part of the palace, there is a blood-red throne, the godhead, floating on. A roar came, and the blood-red red dots in the godhead emitted countless red lights, woven into Aries' body again. But this time Aries looks a bit weaker than when he was in London. Aries roared angrily, "War is order. Ah, why is the power of war getting less and less? How can I take revenge?" As he finished speaking, Aries couldn't help but think of the scene when Subai used Galaxy Star Explosion. At that moment, he was actually afraid. That kind of power was something he was qualified to possess. The war cannot stop. Diana and the Asian must die. Thinking of this, Aries recited an obscure spell in his mouth, and countless thunder lights began to emerge, gradually condensing into a nearly 2-meter thunder-shaped spear. The thunder-shaped spear in Aries' hand continued to emit strong thunder light, and the thunder snake filled the air and began to tear up the surrounding space. This spear and the spear are extremely famous artifacts throughout Greek mythology. They are the weapons of Zeus, the third-generation god king, Thunder. Thunder was created by God King Zeus personally collecting the power of thunder in the world and gathering the power of the gods on Mount Olympus. Its power far exceeds that of ordinary artifacts. But Aries frowned slightly as he held it in his hand. "I didn't expect that I would have to take you out in the end." Seeing Thunder, Aries will want the god King Zeus, the god king who always denies him and has never had any affection for him, and the father who regards him as a thorn in his side. From the time he can remember, Aries' biggest goal is to prove himself to Zeus, but every time he achieves something and feels joyful, he only gets a cold look or even alienation from Zeus. Ever since he got Thunder, Aries regarded it as the greatest success and the most expensive trophy in his long life. But before Subai appeared, Aries never thought that one day he would use the most expensive weapon he had ever had. The weapon of the hater. Thinking of this, Aries had a self-deprecating look on his face. "Thanks to your bloodline, I can use thunder and use your weapons to personally kill Diana." It turns out that after Thunder was cast, it had 3 major characteristics. Only Greek gods with the blood of the god king flowing in their bodies can touch thunder. Thunder contains a ray of the origin of the world, and the owner can control thunder and lightning. Thunder is extremely sharp and the strongest. In front of it, the holy shield is as thin as white paper. His body has recovered to 90%, and with the thunder in hand, Aries' eyes flashed with red light. This time, he will never miss again. Thinking of the battle in London, Aries' mind showed Oris who had escaped halfway. He clenched his fists and couldn't help but let out a low roar. "If you don't change your nature, I will teach you a lesson after Diana dies." What Aries didn't expect was that his biological daughter, who was hated by him, was in this palace. At the moment, Oris had a cold smile on his lips, existing in a completely transparent form on one of the pillars of the palace, and Aries didn't notice it at all. "Stupid father, have you finally taken out the thunder? Ha 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 ha." Oris's gaze has not shifted since the moment Thunder appeared. The reason why she stayed with Aries after the god war and the Greek pantheon had fallen apart was because of what she saw in front of her. Thunder. For a deal. Those 2 people are so easy to deal with. If I can defeat you the first time, I will naturally be able to defeat you the second time. If not, I don't mind stabbing your heart with my own hands. The cold smile kept spreading on Oris's face, and soon, it completely disappeared into the air. On the other side, the power shown by Subai and Diana was completely beyond the ability of the Alliance forces to resist. In a small town in the Alps, Subai captured a large number of Alliance researchers, and Wolverine Logan also rescued his teammates. even though they suffered inhuman torture in a short period of time, they still remained life. During this period, Logan wanted to answer Subai several times, but he couldn't save his face. After all, he had shown strong hostility before, but now, at least he had a common enemy. After thinking again and again, Logan walked towards Subai and asked, "Who are you?" Subai had already noticed the hesitation of Logan, and smiled at the strong man. "Subai, Asian. You are very strong. I mean, the power you showed is just like in the novel, it is powerful and unmatched." Logan organized his words, and then asked expectantly, are we, the same kind of person?" Mutants at this time were relatively rare and mostly hidden among ordinary people. No wonder Logan, who had always been lonely in his heart, had the illusion that Subai was also a mutant. "Are we, the same kind of people?" Logan's tone was full of temptation, but he was destined not to get the perfect answer he wanted. Subai said without almost thinking, "No. Although we have some things in common, such as some special abilities, we are indeed not the same type of people. You are a mutant, and I am an ordinary person." At this moment, Logan felt like there were 10,000 grass and mud horses galloping past. He wondered if he was hallucinating. Ordinary people. How dare Subai say that he is an ordinary person? Are there ordinary people like you? He casually flattened a small hill, and the ground cracked with one kick. Such a powerful force was applied to him. How could he be called an ordinary person? There is a goddess-level woman accompanying him. Where is it ordinary? It is no exaggeration to say that Subai is the most extraordinary person Logan has ever seen. Logan rolled his eyes, but did not immediately refute. After all, Subai proposed a new word that he had never heard of, mutant. He looked at Subai expectantly. Ever since ability awakening, he had doubts in his heart. Why is he different from others? Bone Claw, a powerful regenerative ability. Before figuring out the source of the ability, Logan had been carefully hiding himself. He knew that attracting the attention of others would soon lead to disaster. This special ability once made him hate and helpless. Subai, who seems to be omnipotent in front of him, should be able to answer this question. "You said I am a mutant, can you please explain what you mean?" Mutant, from a biological perspective, refers to a mutated human race resulting from genetic mutation. Mutants mostly have extraordinary abilities and will naturally awaken at a certain age. Mutants' abilities can be strong or weak. Definitely, ability. The difference in development level is the key factor in determining combat effectiveness. While Subai was explaining, he couldn't help but look into the air out of the corner of his eye. A pure white homing pigeon landed quietly on the tree. It was news from the holy place in London. Diana also discovered this unusual homing pigeon. Under Subai's eyes, she moved towards the homing pigeon. Logan here, after hearing the concept of mutant, his eyes lit up and he felt a little excited. "Mutant? Did you come up with this concept? You must have seen many mutants, right? How many more are there in this world?" "Mutants exist." Subai coughed. It was difficult to trace the origin of the concept of mutant. But in the current situation, Subai could only say softly, "I do have a little research on mutant. After all, I have seen many works about X-Men. There are indeed a group of mutants on the Earth, but they are not many. Most of them are just like you, pretending to be ordinary people. Whether you can meet them depends on luck." After Subai finished speaking, a smile finally appeared on Logan's face. He was not the only mutant. What made him feel even more lucky was that he met Subai. The doubts and loneliness that had been bothering him for a long time disappeared at this moment, and it felt like the clouds were parting and the sky was clear. Logan's attitude towards Subai has naturally become friendly. Logan has long known that age cannot be judged by appearance. After all, he himself is an example. Although Subai looks very young, in Logan's heart, Subai is already it has become the image of a scholar, the kind of person who possesses both strength and knowledge. But Logan is still very curious. Since Subai says he is an ordinary person, why can he still have such powerful power? Logan definitely didn't ask directly. Everyone has their own experiences, and there was no need for him to pursue Subai's secret forcefully. At some point in the past, Logan had hated the ability he had, but this time when he met Subai, Logan saw another way to live. Logan said sincerely to Subai, "Thank you." At this time, Diana walked up to Subai and whispered in her ear, "Holy Place London has discovered Aries' whereabouts." Subai nodded calmly, and after a period of silence, Aries finally couldn't bear it anymore. Now is the best time to completely eliminate Aries. Logan, I look forward to meeting you next time. New troubles have arisen. It's time to say goodbye. Subai made a farewell gesture and then, as if thinking of something, turned around and said, "If you still want to live as a soldier, the German researchers in this town will be under the custody of you and your comrades. This should be a considerable military achievement." Logan smiled and took out a cigarette from his pocket, holding it in his mouth. "They have just sent a telegram using their telegraph machine. Friendly forces will come to support soon. Don't worry, I will perform my last military mission perfectly." As soon as his words fell, Subai and Diana disappeared over the horizon at a speed unimaginable to ordinary people. Seeing this scene, Logan had a strange thought for the first time. Subai said that mutant's ability can be developed. Do you want to try it? The direction given by the holy place in London was not too far from Subai's previous location. In less than half an hour, the two of them had crossed the Alps and arrived in Austria. Wherever you look, you can rarely see human figures, but you can easily sense the rippling magic power. At the moment, Diana felt a little worried. As expected, Aries appeared again. Is his strength weakened or stronger? Logically speaking, the war has ended and peace has gradually arrived. Aries has suffered a heavy blow and should become easier to deal with. But Diana always felt a little uneasy, a reminder from her bloodline, like an early warning. The closer she got to Aries' location, the stronger this feeling became. Diana couldn't help but look at Subai beside her, and then she felt a little relieved. She had long unconsciously regarded Subai as her biggest support. If Subai is here, everything can be solved. Subai does seem calm and confident. If he can defeat an enemy once, he can defeat him a second time, not to mention after the Phoenix Saint cloth has been strengthened. What Subai is thinking about now is the godhead of Aries, the god of war. There is a ray of the origin of the world in every godhead. Last time, Hercules' godhead gave Subai a surprise, giving the small universe a new understanding. This time, Subai was determined to kill Aries, and also get the godhead of the god of war. After flying over 2 mountains, you can find the magicians at Holy Place in London. There are about 100 people in number, evenly distributed in 6 directions, floating in the air, mumbling words, and building a magic circle. As soon as Subai and Diana arrived, many magicians were distracted and turned their attention. That day, Subai's performance of suppressing Caecilius in the holy place was seen by them. Later, many legends and speculations leaked out, which made it appear that Subai was powerful and mysterious, and even these arrogant magicians did not dare to neglect him. What's more, when Merlin and the magician are out. Yes, the respected Merlin magician left the earth a week ago, and I temporarily serve as the chief administrative officer of Holy Place. A combat magician with long black hair, wearing a white robe, with a cross-like weapon on his back, floated towards Subai and introduced himself. "My name is Sophia, I was once a disciple of the great magician of Merlin. This once against Aries, Holy Place will fight with you." Subai nodded and asked, "When did you discover Aries? What's the situation now?" Actually, as early as a week ago, Holy Place narrowed the search area to a radius of 10 kilometers. Not long ago, there was a strong energy fluctuation nearby. It was confirmed that there was a huge underground palace, and Aries was in it. Quote, "And the magicians are building a magic circle to open the mirror space." The last time he was in London, it was Caecilius who caught the large magic weapon in London's holy place and was able to instantly open the mirror space. Moreover, Caecilius's own ability was also there, and ordinary magicians couldn't match it. When Subai heard this, he frowned and asked Sophia in confusion, "Aries didn't want to escape?" Diana also felt a little abnormal. How could Aries be surrounded by the magicians of Holy Place? Sophia nodded solemnly, looked at the increasingly cloudy sky, and said softly, "This is exactly what I'm worried about. Aries is so confident that he has definitely gained new power, even far beyond the previous Aries. At the same time, there is a magical dungeon made of blue electric light under the Holy Place in London, the capital of the United Kingdom." Caecilius's hair was disheveled, and a dim light flashed across his eyes, which could vaguely resemble the shrill cry of a ghost. All magicians in the holy place in London are stipulated to only practice white magic, and now Caecilius exudes an evil magical aura. The elite magicians of London's holy place came out in force to give Caecilius the best chance. Caecilius, what are you still hesitating about? Look at what you look like now. The Ancient One is indifferent to you. He has already abandoned you. Just because you have lost the face of the Sorcerer Supreme. You are no longer that genius, but a down-and-out magician who is ridiculed by others, and even spends your whole life in dungeon. Now, I am merciful and allow you to make another transaction with me. The low, hoarse devil's words kept lingering in Caecilius's mind, and Subai's face became synonymous with hatred, filling his whole heart. Caecilius thought about his mentor Ancient One again. For half a month, he ignored him and no news came from him. He felt even more resentful in his heart. His eyes were already dark. Caecilius was cruel, his throat turned a few times, and he spit out a black magic ball. This black magic ball expanded rapidly, with a radius of 1 meter, and contained countless souls. Nearly 10 million souls are imprisoned in the magic ball spit out by Caecilius. These souls were all collected by Caecilius from the battlefield. At the beginning of World War I, Cassia discovered the clues. The entire war was facilitated by Aries, the god of war. Caecilius made a decision at that time. He did not reveal all this, but reached a cooperative relationship with Aries. Aries promotes the continuous expansion of the territory of the war, using endless disputes to provide him with constant divine power, and then wants the whole world to be shrouded in panic. Caecilius collects the souls of decedent on the battlefield to practice black magic, and makes deals with demons for more powerful power. The relationship between the two is strange but solid. Although they are in different camps, they both undoubtedly benefited from the war if Subai hadn't suddenly appeared. And this magic ball, which can imprison countless souls, was also traded from the devil. At this moment, under the constant temptation of the devil, Caecilius finally made up his mind to join the darkness. The black light in Caecilius's eyes became thicker and thicker, and the magic power in his body transformed rapidly. He said dumbly, I need power, the magic power that can destroy the holy place in London. How many souls do you need for such a deal? Caecilius never knew which powerful being the demon he was dealing with was. He was pursuing power and immortality. The power of this demon even exceeded the Sorcerer Supreme, and that was enough. Ha 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 ha. Sharp laughter rang out, and the devil's voice became more evil, with a hint of sharpness, and said, This time, I don't need a mortal soul. Take your soul as a bargaining chip. How about it? Caecilius's eyes flashed with surprise, and his heart tightened. He didn't expect that the demon in the void would actually make such a request. Your own soul. This was undoubtedly another major decision in Caecilius' life. At this moment, a scene suddenly appeared in his mind. He had just entered the door of the Ancient One magician, sat under the morning sun, and recited the hymn. They have intact bodies but no hot souls. They are a group of people who made a deal with the devil. They don't like such warm lights, and the gentle atmosphere makes them angry. They just like to whisper silently in dark and damp places. Once a body with a beautiful soul passes by, they will swarm up, exposing their sharp fangs, and let their helpless cries are swallowed up in the darkness. This is their pleasure and the only thing they are good at doing. They are a group of horrible and pitiful people, just because they made a deal with the devil. Caecilius's whole body was trembling, beads of sweat even appeared on his forehead, and his gums were bleeding from biting them. The demon continued to whisper, What are you still hesitating about? As long as you become my servant, you can gain eternity in the realm of forbidden magic you have always wanted to touch. Power, that is endless power. Not only will it destroy the entire holy place in London, but even the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One will crawl at your feet. At that time, you will become the ruler of the earth and the overlord of the universe. Before the demon's voice subsided, Caecilius suddenly calmed down. He let out a long sigh, and the black light in his eyes finally spread out, covering his entire face. He chose to say that sentence, I agree. In an instant, countless black lights shined, and powerful magic rippled, tearing apart the entire magic dungeon. An unparalleled dark force shrouded the entire sky over London. On the other side, after just waiting for a moment, the elite magicians of London's holy place erected the magic circle. Blue lights shone in 6 directions, rippling like waves, covering the entire space in the surrounding area. Everything around him became quiet, and Subai understood that they had entered the mirror space. The time it took to release the mirror space this time is far less than when we were in London, but in terms of coverage, it is much longer. Subai compared it secretly in his mind, wondering why Aries, who was in the underground palace at the moment, hadn't made any move yet. Subai was about to take the lead when he heard Sophia, the leader of the magicians, shouting, "Space manipulation." 6 strands of blue energy gathered in the air, and then dissipated and became invisible in an instant. Under Subai's perception, the whole space was shaking slightly. Soon, the large mountain range in front of Subai was like origami, standing upright. It stood up, forming a 90-degree angle with the ground. Hundreds of elite magicians from Holy Place gathered their power and began to manipulate the mirror space. The mountains were lifted up, and the underground palace hidden under the mountains was instantly exposed. The buildings of the underground palace were removed piece by piece like building blocks. Aries, who was sitting on the blood throne with thunder in his hand, finally opened his eyes at this moment, and a wisp of thunder flashed in his eyes. Aries has long been aware of the changes in the outside world, and he has also anticipated all this. He is not alarmed or fearful, and has adjusted his state to the best. The underground palace was opened, and the light from the outside world scattered in. Looking at Subai, Diana, and the magicians in the holy place under the sky, Aries' thoughts couldn't help but go back to the time when he just became an adult 3,000 years ago. At that time, the human race was still in ignorance, and there were monsters running rampant on the ground and in the sky. In order to fight for faith, he fought with blood, 1 against 1,000, not afraid, not afraid. Today, the Greek pantheon is falling apart, and as far as the eye can see, everyone in the world is still the enemy. Aries stood up, snorted coldly, blood surged in his eyes, and his figure instantly expanded, becoming a giant nearly 10 meters tall. The lightning in his hand was thunder. As soon as thunder appeared, the energy in the entire space began to rage. The pressure on the holy place magicians suddenly increased. The pupils of Sophia, the leader of this team, shrank even more. As this Aries' trump card, Subai, who took everything in his eyes, also became solemn. He did not dare to underestimate the enemy. The energy fluctuations coming from the thunder should not be underestimated. Aries' blood-red eyes first looked at Diana, then at Subai, and finally with a slightly mocking snort, he stared at the holy place magician distributed in 6 directions. This is a battle between gods. Do you mortals dare to compete with gods? As he finished speaking, Aries waved the thunder in his hand. Without any warning, 6 giant thunderbolts with a diameter of 3 meters suddenly struck down. Aries' first blow was not aimed at Subai or Diana, but directly aimed at the magicians. In Aries' view, he and Diana are the blood of Zeus, and Subai possesses the divine personality of Hercules. This is a dispute between gods and gods. These magicians are not qualified to participate at all. This is his dignity as one of the 12 main gods. Gods will always be gods, mortals are nothing but ants. Even though Sophia and the magicians reacted very quickly and barely held up the magic shield, the thunder and lightning contained in these 6 giant thunders seemed to be endless, constantly consuming their mana, and there was no sign of stagnation. Aries holds thunder, and already has the power to control thunder and lightning. But in an instant, thunder and lightning blasted the magic shield into cracks and penetrated it. The thunder snake flashed, and the violent energy contained in it electrocuted a magician into black ash in the blink of an eye. Not just this one, there were endless thunder and lightning, many magicians wailed, and after 2 breaths, they were already ruined. Sophia hurriedly recited a spell, bursts of white light emerged from her body, and used her strongest defensive spell, Holy Light Shield Wall. A white shield covering a kilometer was propped up, barely resisting the invasion of thunder and lightning. While the magicians were struggling to resist, Subai had already taken action. This time, Subai raised his hands directly above his head, and the small universe began to burn crazily. As soon as he took action, he wanted to use the strongest galaxy explosion to resolve the battle. A brilliant star map appeared behind Subai, and the stars kept shining. After the holy clothes evolved, the power of the small universe also increased. This time, the small universe will burn more completely, and the power of the moves will be even more powerful. Endless energy quickly gathered on Subai, and Aries obviously noticed this. He waved the thunder in his hand repeatedly, and 2 giant thunder struck down. Diana, and you, the mortals who stole the godhead, you all must die. These 2 huge thunders hit the heads of Diana and Subai one after another. The moment Aries raised the thunder, Diana's body that was rushing forward instantly turned back. The giant thunder snaked like a snake, and actually followed Diana's figure closely. Diana reluctantly raised her wrist and collided with the thunder snake. There was a loud bang and a muffled grunt. Instead, she used this huge force to hit the top of Subai. While flying upside down, she turned over and raised her shield instantly. Diana did not hesitate and blocked the lightning strike for Subai. Ah! The lightning flashes crisscrossed, even the heavenly shield was scorched black by the electricity, and countless cracks appeared. The lightning penetrated downwards, tearing apart Diana's body, but causing the divine blood in Diana's body to boil crazily. The falling thunder and lightning seemed to be charging Diana. After the initial pain, even her eyes shone with endless lightning. Seeing this scene, Aries' hatred and anger in his heart reached the extreme. His body swelled and his blood boiled. Diana, your blood is purer than mine. It's impossible. I am the God King. In rage, Aries raised thunder, and countless thunders flashed and struck down with a crash. There was lightning and thunder in the sky, and this space had already become a thunder and lightning purgatory, with only thunder and lightning left. When the energy was turbulent, a huge gap was torn out of the entire mirror space, and it gradually fell into pieces. The magicians could no longer hold on. Looking at this world-destroying scene, they felt a little desperate in their hearts. Diana's roar came out, but they could not stop Aries. Fortunately, at this moment, Subai's small universe burned to its peak, and another terrifying power rippled out in the thunder. In the thunder and lightning purgatory, Subai's small universe burned to its peak, and a terrifying power spread from Subai, becoming the absolute focus in this space. Whether it was the desperate holy place magicians, Diana who was absorbing the power of the thunder and lightning, or Aries who turned into a bloody giant, they all felt the energy emanating from Subai and turned their attention. A nearly complete galactic starburst is an unmatched power. Aries roared angrily, the divine power in his body was running wildly, his eyes were blood red, and even the surface of his skin was seeping with divine blood, no matter what. The power of countless thunders gathered together to form a giant spear that was 1,000 meters long and 100 meters wide. Aries roared, and the giant spear hit Subai with imperceptible speed. At this moment, Subai roared angrily. The moment he opened his hands, the Milky Way starburst was released, and the surrounding mirror space trembled uncontrollably, cracked, and shattered. Even in the violent thunder and lightning, it was annihilated by the energy released by the galactic starburst. White light, endless whiteness spread from Subai's body, swallowing up all matter and energy, and blasted towards Aries in the form of a beam of light. All sounds disappeared, and the mirror space was completely shattered. The moment the galactic starburst collided with the giant thunder spear, a circular energy field nearly a kilometer was born, spinning, bringing countless air waves and unparalleled impact force. The earth cracked open, and a section of the Alps was flattened directly by the energy impact, turning into a flat land without edges. The white and the blue of the thunder light collided, consumed, pressed step by step, and finally devoured it. In just 2 breaths, the giant thunder spear was destroyed by the galaxy starburst. In Aries' eyes, there was only endless whiteness, and the mighty power rushed over and was about to destroy everything. How much like it was in London. But this time, Aries didn't choose to back down. Before the white light came, the bloody giant actually took a big step and rushed forward. Endless white light bloomed, and after 2 breaths, it suddenly dissipated. 1,000-meter-high mushroom cloud floated up, and the powerful impact spread like a wave, fiercely tearing apart everything on the ground. The entire ground was shaking, and a huge crack appeared. People in every Eastern European country, whether it was Austria, nearby Latvia, Hungary, or Serbia, shouted in panic at this moment, "It's an earthquake, it's an earthquake." Buildings as far away as 500 kilometers away were also knocked down by the aftermath of the energy impact, and a 10,000-meter deep pit was formed in the center of the energy bombardment. At the bottom of the pit, the figure of the bloody giant Aries has long disappeared. Only a little blue light shines, which is the godhead of Aries, the god of war. The magicians at Holy Place in London were in a state of ups and downs. They were all dumbfounded at this moment, and the timid ones were still trembling, unable to believe what was happening in front of them. As Aries said, this is a war between gods. They thought they could not break the mystery of magic, so they bid farewell to their mortal bodies and became a noble part of this world. However, they were too insignificant in front of Subai. No magician dared to defend against Subai's attack. Even Merlin's former disciple Sophia's eyes were filled with shock. She couldn't help but shudder, marveling at Subai's destructive power. Looking around, even the Alps have been torn open by Subai. Without the obstruction of the mirror space and Aries, Subai's full blow could have brought the end of the earth. At the moment, Sophia remembered the reminder from Merlin Magician. Subai is definitely one of the most terrifying people on this planet. Never offend him unless you decide to become his enemy and want to endure fear and death. Torture. It was at this moment, when everyone thought the battle was over, that the blue light and electricity in the pit suddenly floated up, using the last few rays of blood to form the broken body. Aries' body has become translucent. This period of his life has come to an end, but he is still grinning and staring at Subai. Subai's pupils shrank suddenly. A ray of electric light suddenly appeared. Thunder, passing through the energy impact of the galaxy starburst, carrying unparalleled power, thunder, stabbed towards Subai's heart. Aries burned all the remaining divine power before the galactic starburst, just to throw the thunder in his hand. Unrivaled thunder, thunder that can pierce everything. Die, die, die. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. Aries yelled and roared crazily, and all his hatred and resentment exploded at this moment. He firmly believed that Subai had no chance of dodge. Subai must die. When the magicians at Holy Place saw this scene, their hearts seemed to have stopped beating. The shouts all stopped, and the expression on his face was distorted to the extreme. Subai, it's dangerous. Diana also woke up from the strange state of absorbing thunder and lightning. Her eyes were round and her face was anxious. Before she could say anything, it was already too late to rescue Subai. The electric current surged, and thunder crossed all boundaries of time and space, and stabbed at Subai's holy clothes in full view of everyone. Thunder, with unparalleled power, stabbed Subai's holy clothes in full view of everyone. The moment the two parties came into contact, compared to the distortions of the Holy Place magicians and Diana's worry, Aries couldn't wait to show a smile of victory on his face. He firmly believes that thunder can pierce everything. The crisp sound of ding sounded, and the moment the thunder came into contact with the holy clothes, Subai's small universe, which had already reached its limit, suddenly stopped for a second. Immediately afterwards, a clear cry of phoenix penetrated directly into the sky. The phoenix saint clothes, which originally emitted a faint red light, instantly burst into flames like the scorching sun. The stagnant small universe instantly burned to the maximum, resisting the piercing power of thunder and the 5 endless electric lights. Boom. In an instant, the confrontation between Phoenix Saint Cloth and thunder came to an end. Subai only felt a huge force coming, and his body exploded back 1,000 meters in midair. After the thunder came into contact with the Phoenix Saint Cloth, it also flipped in midair and retreated sharply. They are almost the same. When he stopped, Subai vaguely heard the cry of a phoenix. He lowered his head and saw a crack appeared on the breastplate. The red light emitted instantly dimmed, flickering on and off, and even the movement of the small universe was not as good as before. Smooth. The thunder, composed of thunder and light, is completely dim, and it is difficult to emerge without the infusion of energy. How can it be? This scene fell into Aries' eyes, causing his veins to bulge, his eyes to show countless bloodshot eyes, and even his thinking stopped. It's impossible. Thunder. Thunder can't kill you. Aries didn't even care about the thunder flying back. He only had one item in his eyes, which was Subai's holy cloth. During the first battle, Aries noticed Subai's gorgeous armor, but he never expected that the defensive power of this equipment would be so amazing. When I met Subai for the first time, I thought that the godhead of Hercules was Subai's last trump card. After the battle, I discovered that Subai's trump card was Galaxy Starburst. Fighting again, Aries was ready to resist the galaxy starburst, and designed to use thunder to kill Subai. Unexpectedly, Subai's trump card turned into this gorgeous holy. Impossible. Aries was completely confused and panicked. A trace of despair actually emerged in his heart. Subai's growth rate and demonstrated strength made him completely unable to see any hope of victory. Subai, who is this Asian, what is his origin, and why does he exist like this? While Aries was in a daze, Diana finally breathed a sigh of relief, her eyes full of surprise. She was too worried about Subai's comfort, so she immediately came to Subai's side and supported Subai. Subai breathed a sigh of relief temporarily, but frowned again, turning his head to look at the thunder floating in the air. Diana's gaze also shifted. After being exposed to the endless power of the thunder and lightning, Diana's divine blood boiled again. Not only did she accept all the power of the thunder and lightning, she actually had a desire in her heart, a desire for thunder, as if she was the one who was born to have the God King's scepter. At this moment, a phantom suddenly appeared next to thunder, and quickly transformed into a real entity. Its long purple hair was flying, and its face was full of a charming smile. Subai secretly thought in his heart, it's the goddess of strife who suddenly disappeared in the last battle, Oris. Oh. Oris reached forward with his right hand and easily grasped thunder. The smile on his face became even thicker. At this moment, Aries, whose life was about to disappear, suddenly saw hope of survival. His daughter appeared. As long as he entered the golden apple, he could survive and take revenge. But as soon as Aries opened his mouth, he felt a sharp pain coming from behind. He turned his head in shock, and before he knew it, Oris had appeared behind him. She held the thunder in her hand and stabbed the God King's authority into Aries' broken body shell. Oris pressed against Aries' ear and whispered, "Goodbye, my father, the cruel and cold-blooded god of war. I'm so happy to get to know you personally. Also, let me tell you another secret. Do you think that during the God War 100 years ago, why did half of the gods follow in your footsteps? I was the one who started the Greek God War. Dear father, it's such a pity that until death comes, you are also in my calculations. Forgive me, after all, we are all for power, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha." With a cold smile, Aries' eyes widened. At the last moment of his life, he finally experienced true despair. He was betrayed by his biological daughter, just as he stabbed the bloody blade into Zeus's body with his own hands. Aries knew that this time, he would never be resurrected with his godhead. At the last moment when his consciousness was about to die, he fell on the cracked ground, looking at the gray sky, as if the shadow of Zeus was emerging, smiled and stretched out his hands to him. It turns out, none of us are good fathers. It turns out that none of us are good fathers. Before his consciousness became blurred, Aries suddenly felt a lot of emotion in his heart, but he had no chance to express it and would never have the opportunity to express it. Perhaps if the Godhead is well hidden, he can be resurrected thousands of years later with the power of not too much faith, but Aries has staked everything on him this time, including his life as the god of war. Aries' broken body quickly dissipated, turning into a thin ray of red light that rose into the sky, leaving only a fist-file-sized cube in place, which was the dim godhead of the god of war. Aries, one of the 12 main gods of the Greek Trinity 7, fell today and died under the attack of his enemies and his daughter. Subai's eyes did not flash the slightest sympathy, but instead stared eagerly at Oris and the god of war in Oris' hands. The galactic starburst with all his strength consumed a lot of physical strength, and even the Phoenix Saint cloth was slightly damaged, but Subai still operated the small universe immediately, and the shadow of the Phoenix appeared behind him. Oris on the opposite side gave a sweet smile and stared at Subai with infinite tenderness, as if she wanted to take away Subai's soul. She clenched the thunder in her right hand, poured her divine power into it, and emitted thunder. The godhead floated in the palm of her left hand, and said softly, "Do you want to? The same god cannot have two godheads. From the moment the godhead becomes self-contained, it will be with him for life. This is a legacy left from ancient times. Oris will definitely keep it in mind. She cannot become the new god of war. However, as long as a carrier can be found that can bear the godhood, Oris can create a new god of war who will only obey her slaves. Therefore, whether it is godhood or thunder, she wants it. What responded to Oris was Subai's phoenix wings flying at a very fast speed. Before the powerful impact arrived, the strange golden apple of definitely appeared on the side of Oris. Able to contain all things, including life, and possessing powerful healing ability, it is Oris's most important treasure. Oris' figure quickly faded, as if she wanted to imitate the last time and leave instantly. Seeing this, Sophia, the magician leader over there, hurriedly shouted, "Build a mirror space." But it was still not enough. Oris' figure quickly faded, far faster than the magicians could build space. At the critical moment, lightning flashed in Diana's eyes beside Subai, and the power of the thunder and lightning in the divine blood in her body began to boil. A crackling sound sounded, and blue power of the thunder and lightning spread on her body. He shouted, "Thunder!" There was a loud noise, and a huge thunder fell from the sky, striking the seemingly blank open space. Oris' figure reappeared, with the golden apple hanging above his head, resisting the power of the thunder. Surprise flashed in her eyes. She didn't expect that Diana's roar would actually awaken the thunder in her hand. What makes Oris even more incredible is that the thunderbolt she holds in her hand quickly shape-shifts from the shape of a spear into a giant net, which completely traps Oris in the midst of lightning and flint. Countless electric lights were swimming in the giant thunder net, and even Oris couldn't help but let out a scream. She didn't have the calmness and confidence she had before. She put all her vigilance on Subai and never thought that Diana had a backup plan. Aries has been collecting thunder for hundreds of years and plays with it from time to time. He even races against time before the war to develop all the potential of thunder. He is not as good as Diana, who seems to be born with the ability to control this God King Scepter Zero. Oris didn't expect it, and couldn't possibly expect it. It wasn't until this moment that she realized something. Thunder can only be possessed by Greek gods. Zeus wanted to prevent the artifact from falling into the hands of others. The purer the bloodline of the God King, the more powerful it can be. Oris is the daughter of Aries, and Diana's divine blood is purer than Aries's. In terms of blood purity, Diana is more than a step ahead of Oris. What's more, Oris has just taken over the thunder, let alone manipulation, and cannot suppress this artifact at all. As for why Diana can control this artifact so easily, as if it is integrated into her blood, we have to explore Diana's life experience. How could Subai care so much? Oris was trapped. He took action again without any hesitation. The phantom of the phoenix faded out of his eyes, and a purple line turned into a thin line, directly passing through 1.8 Oris's forehead. It was exactly the same as last time. The phoenix phantom fist that successfully killed Oris. A powerful hallucination emerged, and Oris's forehead was sweating. She had just killed Aries with her own hands, and suddenly turned into a 1,000-meter-tall bloody giant, reappeared, roared in her mouth, and knelt down. "Kneel down! Kneel down!" Sound waves came one after another and penetrated directly into the depths of Oris's heart. As long as there was a trace of fear, it would be infinitely amplified. In this hallucination, Subai's voice came again. "Keep the Godhead, the artifact, and your life." Subai's voice was like a magic sound, which made Oris particularly uncomfortable. Oris herself is a master at creating illusions, and based on her experience last time, she knew that she would die immediately if she showed any flaws. But looking at the 1,000-meter-tall bloody giant with the face of Aries, her heart couldn't stop trembling. Oris gritted her teeth. In order to break free from the illusion, she actually worked hard and directly used divine power to stimulate her heart. She would rather give up this life than struggle in Subai's illusion. Oris, who was bound by the giant thunder net, suddenly cut off the breath of life, turned into a purple light, and penetrated into the golden apple. At the same time, the godhead who fell into the giant net couldn't stop shaking, and its color slowly faded, as if it was trying to escape from the giant thunder net and was ingested by golden apple 09 from the air. Subai had the experience of Aries and knew that Oris must have hidden the godhead in the golden apple, which became her golden ticket to avoid death. Almost the moment Oris broke free from the illusion, Subai's hand flashed with red light, and another phoenix wing flew towards the golden apple. Diana also took action, controlling the giant thunder net to move quickly, and it landed in front of her in the blink of an eye. The thunder turned into the shape of a spear again, and the godhead that was about to fade away fell out and was immediately held by Diana. At this moment, a sharp scream came from the golden apples, and Oris almost went crazy. Not only was the thunder taken away, but the godhead was also taken away with him. If it were an ordinary item, it could be transferred into the inner space of the golden apple with just one breath, but the godhead contained a ray of power from the origin of the world, so it would take more time. As soon as it is interrupted, the transfer process will start again. But the godhead has fallen into Diana's hands. How to transfer it? Before Oris could think about it, Fengyi Tianxiang's impact struck again. He couldn't avoid it in time, so Oris could only hold up a purple barrier and absorb Subai's powerful attack. The moment the two forces came into contact, there was a shattering sound, and the purple barrier was easily opened like paper. Thanks to the rapid rotation of the golden apple, it immediately turned black. Black gas as thick as ink emerged and surrounded the apple, which offset the impact of Fengyi Tianxiang. Diana snorted coldly, and the situation of being suppressed by Oris in London came to mind. She threw the godhead she had just obtained to Subai, and then took out the mantra lasso from her waist. Diana waved the mantra lasso with her left hand, like a golden dance, swimming into the black gas, entangling the source of the black gas. Oris controlled the golden apple, and already had the intention of retreat in her heart. Subai teamed up with Diana. Without the thunder, Oris had no chance of winning. She didn't think about confronting her head-on when she came. The only oversight was probably Diana, who was confronting her. Why was Diana able to control thunder instantly? In fact, the moment she held thunder, Diana felt a sense of familiarity in her heart. This sense of familiarity is deep in the blood. It turns out that the divine blood has been refined by the extremely powerful lightning, and the third awakening has begun. The combat power has increased again. Diana never wants to let Oris go. The moment she was entangled by the mantra lasso, she held the thunder in her hand, rushed forward quickly, and jumped high. Even if the golden apple's defense was astonishing, she still had to use the thunder in her hand to pierce it. Oris screamed in fear, unable to break free from the noose of the mantra. She turned into a ray of purple light, wrapped her own godhead, came out, and reorganized a new body. There was almost no hesitation. Before Subai launched the attack, Oris' figure disappeared immediately. In midair, the golden apple temporarily lost control, suddenly stopped spinning, and collided head-on with the thunder. The lightning scattered in all directions, making countless explosions. Diana's blow, after encountering a slight obstacle, easily broke the golden apple into two halves. Oris' roar could still be vaguely heard, full of endless heartache. The two-half golden apple instantly turned into golden light spots, following Oris's footsteps, and instantly faded in the air. 737 Until now, the magicians of Holy Place have barely managed to hold up the second mirror space, but they can no longer trace the traces of Oris. Subai held the godhead in his hand and frowned slightly. Although he had obtained the artifact and godhead, there were some hidden dangers in letting Oris escape. Let her escape. Diana also had some resentment in her eyes, and her only regret was that she was not able to kill Oris, who was good at escaping and hiding in one fell swoop. At the moment, the surroundings were completely calm. The magicians at Holy Place no longer only had respect in their eyes, but also a hint of fear. The power that Subai showed just now was too powerful, far beyond their imagination. If they were not temporarily in the same camp, some magicians who cherish their lives would even want to run away and leave this place of right and wrong. Looking around again, not only had a big hole been torn open in the entire Alps, but several more hills had been cut off by Subai in the battle just now. A magician murmured to himself and said, "Maybe, this is the power of God." Chapter 51. The battle finally came to an end, and the magician at Holy Place could breathe a sigh of relief. Various comments sounded, containing excitement and happiness. But when Subai glanced over, his voice became obviously lower. During this operation, the magicians at Holy Place not only underestimated the power of Aries, but also underestimated Subai and Diana. Without Subai's strength, Aries, who holds the thunder, and becomes extremely powerful, would be able to wipe out half of an elite team of nearly 100 people in a short period of time. They can and are certain to escape, but if they are really defeated by Aries, it will be a shame for Holy Place. Sophia, the person in charge of this operation, felt a little unwilling. In her opinion, the magicians of Holy Place were too comfortable, so that when they came to the cruel battlefield, they did not show their fighting experience at all. At the same time, Sophia sighed secretly in her heart, compared to Caecilius's, I'm still far behind. With this emotion, she still had to float in the air awkwardly and leaned towards Subai. After the war, Subai and Diana each gained something. Subai obtained the godhead of the god of war as he wished. As long as he decomposes the godhead, he can complete the task and obtain a large amount of exchange points, and even the small universe can be strengthened. Diana held the thunder, a scepter that belonged exclusively to the Greek god king, and her face became more solemn than ever before, as she quickly became familiar with this artifact. Sophia, who came over at this time, was indeed a bit out of place, but Sophia had to come closer. She did not forget her mission, but she could only place her hope in Subai. The two of them eliminated Aries and severely damaged Oris, the goddess of strife. Sophia, on behalf of London's Holy Place and the Magician Association, would like to express her sincere gratitude to the two of them, AJDH. There was a smile on Sophia's pretty face, but she was hesitant in her heart. Under Subai's gaze, she hesitated for a long time and then said, but there is one more thing. Sophia represents Merlin, the chief magician of Holy Place in London. Discuss with you two. Subai turned his gaze completely, and while slightly confused, he said, tell me about it. Sophia felt really embarrassed, but she still said bravely, Aries is one of the Earth's evil gods defined by the Magician Association. He has been killed many times in the long history, but each time he came back after being dormant for many years. In order to prevent Aries from being resurrected through the god of war, Holy Place wants to completely seal the god of war. Do you two agree? After Sophia finished speaking, she added a sentence at the end, this is related to the safety of the entire Earth and mankind, please understand. Subai frowned and gave the answer instantly without thinking too much, impossible. The meaning of Sophia's words was very clear. She actually wanted Subai to hand over the godhead of the god of war and let the Magician Association seal it. This is Subai's trophy. The legal association definitely contributed a lot in the battle, and there were also casualties in personnel, but it did not play a key role at all. This is completely excessive. Taking a step back, if the Magician Association has a talent, like Caecilius, who knows what unpredictable situations will happen. When it comes to the things in Subai's pocket, he will never give them away. Subai's decisive refusal made the entire air quiet. The surviving magicians felt as if the temperature suddenly dropped. The moment Subai frowned, they felt chills all over their bodies. After all, the scene of Subai's great power has just happened, and it is still vivid in my mind. The huge gap in the Alps not far away is the best proof. The other magicians present would never try to tease Subai's beard at this time. Sophia also didn't expect that Subai would refuse so decisively. She looked at Diana with pleading eyes, only to find that Diana had no expression on her face. She didn't want to pay attention to her from the bottom of her heart, and there was even a lot of dissatisfaction between her eyebrows. Diana is definitely on Subai's side. Since Subai wants the godhead of the god of war, he will never give it up. Sophia was a little stunned, and then her thoughts suddenly changed, and she thought to herself, what is the use of Subai holding the godhead? Is he going to become the new god of war? Such thoughts emerged and were unstoppable, causing Sophia to immediately become alarmed. If Subai becomes the new god of war, how many beings on Earth will be able to check and balance Subai after this war? As magician Merlin said, Subai has become one of the most dangerous beings on Earth. Thinking of this, Sophia felt a lot of courage in her heart, feeling that she was negotiating with Subai for the safety of mankind. Sealing the god of war is not only the decision of Merlin Great Magician, but also the decision of the entire Magician Association. Decision. I hope you two can cooperate and not embarrass the entire Magician Association, embarrass the Great Magician Merlin. Embarrass the humans on Earth. In Sophia's words, she was already vaguely using entities like Merlin and the Magician Association to put pressure on Subai, and even using all of humanity to make a moral offer. Subai's answer became even colder and his attitude became tougher. You are just wishful thinking. The moment Subai finished speaking, an extremely powerful pressure burst out from him, making people feel that even the flow of air had stagnated, and there was a faint feeling of suffocation. The reason why Subai asked Sophia to continue is because after all, we have fought side by side and can be called comrades in arms. But with such an unreasonable request, and the threat hidden in Sophia's words, Subai's goodwill towards the Magician Association, which he had finally accumulated, was instantly wiped out. On the fragile friendship between Subai and the Magician Association, a huge crack spreads, disintegrating everything. Under this strong pressure, Sophia could only barely use her magic power. She was sweating on her forehead and wanted to argue. Before she could say anything, her face changed again. At this moment, almost everyone made the same move, raising their heads and looking at the western sky. An extremely tyrannical evil force that spanned an unknown amount of time and space, taking a certain point in the west as a circle, actually spread to the land of Eastern Europe. The devil's power, this is the devil's power. The older ones among the elite magicians are no strangers to such power. On the land guarded by Holy Place in London, a powerful evil magic power has appeared again. The pressure from Subai gradually subsided, and Sophia finally stopped struggling with the issue of godhood and intensified the conflict. Sophia's pupils had dilated to their maximum size, and she was even more surprised and frightened than when she saw Subai's extremely destructive power. Holy Place. Something happened at Holy Place. The spread of such a powerful evil force within the scope of Holy Place in London can only explain one problem. Holy Place in London, which has never been lost, has been breached. This was tragic news for all creatures in Europe. Sophia's whole body began to tremble with fear, her magic power surged, and she wished she could appear in the Holy Place in London immediately. The situation was urgent and she could not care about the god of war's divinity for the time being. Sophia shouted urgently, "Send the message to the other 3 holy places immediately. Let's rush back to London first." The remaining elite magicians immediately built a magic circle, and the majestic magic power formed a large teleportation array, which required many short-distance teleportations from Austria to London. Before transmitting, Sophia suddenly stopped. During the hesitation, Sophia became embarrassed again. The specific situation of the Holy Place in London is still unknown, but judging from the fluctuations of evil magic power, it is definitely not a weakling. In this case, it will undoubtedly be much safer to have Subai hold the battle. After all, Subai has shown great strength and is unrivaled. But the problem is that on the issue of godhood, the two of them have just stated their stance and had a dispute. Subai's impression of the Magician Association must have hit rock bottom. But being able to get Subai's help is undoubtedly a huge amount of help. Sophia was caught in a difficult decision. At this moment, she just wanted to slap herself. She actually regretted having a showdown with Subai immediately after the battle. Should I lose face, admit my mistake to Subai immediately, and ask for Subai's help? Sophia struggled for a moment, and when she saw the exclamations in the eyes of the Holy Place magicians, she was already shaken, but when she turned around and met Subai's eyes, she felt a surge of stubbornness in her heart. After all, just now, Sophia was still boasting, putting Merlin's great magician and Magician Association in an irresistible position. In the blink of an eye, Subai lowered his head and admitted his mistake, which really seemed too humble. Sophia had dignity and a sense of arrogance in her heart. She didn't know whether the choice she made now was right or wrong, but after making the decision, she stepped into the teleportation array without hesitation. Should we go over and take a look? When the Holy Place magicians teleported away, Diana frowned slightly. The evil power that came from her also made her feel extremely uncomfortable, and it was still coming in a steady stream. It may not have any impact on ordinary people, but any creature that can feel the presence of mana can detect the evil in it. Subai said very cautiously, "I definitely want to go, but not now. Judging from the spread of power, it covers almost half of Europe. Anyone who can emit such energy is by no means an ordinary person. Subai, who just escaped from the war, is not in peak condition in mind, body, and skills, and there is still victory. The fruit needs to be digested. 0. When the sky falls, the taller ones bear it first. Merlin, Ancient One, and everyone related to the Magician Association are probably paying attention to this matter." Subai thought for a moment and decided not to be a vanguard. He turned to Diana and said, "Recover your strength and get familiar with your new weapon." When Diana saw Subai sitting cross-legged, the god of war disappeared from her hands in an instant. Although she was confused, she didn't ask any more questions. She believed in Subai, which was also the most basic trust between the two. In Subai's mind, the long-lost voice of the Wheel of Time sounded, "Congratulations to the Master for obtaining the Godhead of the God of War. By decomposing it, you can obtain a ray of the world's original power, and the exchange points are 12,000. The decomposition process is irreversible. Will the owner proceed with the decomposition?" Subai showed no hesitation and secretly said, "Decompose. Congratulations to the Master for obtaining 12,000 exchange points for a wisp of the world's original power. Congratulations to the Master for completing the main mission, fighting Aries, the God of War. Successfully eliminated Aries and obtained 10,000 redemption points." Decomposing the Godhead of the God of War not only allowed Subai to obtain a ray of the origin of the world, but also received a total of 22,000 exchange points. Adding the remaining 5,000 exchange points from before, it was a total of 27,000 exchange points. This is enough for Subai to exchange for the final secret of a golden saint and an ordinary golden fighting ability, but it is still a long way from the points needed to exchange for a golden saint cloth. Subai looked at the somewhat damaged saint cloth of the Phoenix, and wandered through the battle list of the Wheel of Time. He found that the item marked, Divine Blood, required a full 50,000 redemption points, but it was still a 50% discount. The price can rely on the automatic repair effect of the Phoenix Saint Cloth. The idea of repairing the Saint Cloth immediately is too ideal. To rely on the Wheel of Time, you need to pay an exchange point. Just when Subai was making a decision, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed in his mind. He slapped his forehead suddenly, and said in surprise, "Why did you forget Diana?" Diana is the bloodline of the god King Zeus. The divine blood experienced 2 awakenings, and the hidden ability in the blood was stimulated by the power of thunder. The purity of the divine blood in Diana's body ranks among all the children of Zeus. After all, Zeus is the god king of the Greek pantheon, and Diana's blood can have an effect on the holy clothing. Subai is very optimistic. Subai's consciousness immediately withdrew from the Wheel of Time, and told Diana what he was thinking. For Diana, this was naturally a small matter, and Diana loved the holy cloth very much, but she became proactive. The Phoenix sacred cloth took off from Subai's body and turned into the original form of a fire phoenix spreading its wings. A string of golden blood was left on Diana's wrist, dripping on the sacred cloth, and the lightness of a phoenix immediately spread out. Ming. This contains joy, and indescribable excitement. This string of blood drops was absorbed by the holy clothing extremely quickly. The cracks on the breastplate were repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it returned to its bright color within a moment, making people feel brand new. But this was not the end. After another stream of blood dripped, the phoenix's holy clothes suddenly changed. The phoenix wings, which were originally just for decoration and would be folded and hidden on the shoulders once worn, were gradually dyed golden, and the phoenix tail hanging behind the holy robe also turned golden. The saint cloth has completed its evolution again, and has completely entered its second form compared to the original Phoenix Saint cloth. Seeing this, Subai immediately helped Diana stop the bleeding and asked softly, "It's okay, how do you feel?" The amount of blood Diana contributed was not that much, not to mention that her physique was different from ordinary people, so it was not a problem at all. Being cared about by Subai made her feel warm in her heart. After seeing the new changes in the Phoenix Saint cloth, her eyes flashed. He was overjoyed and said eagerly, "Quickly put it on and take a look." Diana also did not expect that her divine blood could promote the re-evolution of the Phoenix Saint cloth. If she had not already known that the holy cloth recognized its owner, she would have been the first to try it on when it was Subai's turn. Subai chuckled, pinched Diana's little face, "I got it." The power of the small universe spread, and the Phoenix Saint cloth was automatically attracted, decomposed, aggregated, and equipped on Subai's body. Putting on the holy robe, Subai felt as if there was an extra part on her back. With a little control, she flapped her golden wings and easily blew up a strong wave, with the golden phoenix tail also flying in the wind. "It's so gorgeous and beautiful." Even though she had envied Subai many times, Diana still couldn't calm down at this moment. For a woman who likes swords, guns and sticks, the holy robe is extremely attractive. Subai feels equally good. Not only has the defense been raised to a new peak, but also the strength of the small universe has been increased. If you run it at full strength, you will be able to detect about 2 levels. This is already a very terrifying increase. However, the joy of the two people was quickly dispelled by the light black that gradually spread in the sky. For ordinary people, this is a normal change. The sky becomes darker and the clouds gather, which means it is going to rain. But as long as you go beyond the scope of ordinary people, you can feel that these black clouds covering the sky are not simple. They contain surging evil magic power. The speed of development of the situation is beyond our imagination. Diana sighed. Subai's brows also furrowed, but he still said, "Don't worry, recharge your batteries and adjust to the best condition." Subai sat cross-legged again and talked with the theory of time in his mind. How long will it take to integrate the power of the world source this time? According to precise calculations, in 10 hours, 11 minutes and 37 minutes, the integration of the original power of the world can be completed. Master, do you want to integrate now? 10 hours is neither long nor short, which is quite embarrassing, but such a period of time is definitely enough to cause the world to undergo earth-shaking changes, or even be destroyed. Subai temporarily suppressed the idea of integrating immediately, adjusted her mentality, closed her eyes tightly, and the fatigue in her body quickly dissipated, and both her physical strength and energy recovered at an extremely fast speed. Subai and Diana recovered very quickly, and in just 1 hour, their physical condition was adjusted to its optimal state. At the moment, the evil power in the sky continues to spread, with the momentum of dark clouds covering the sky. Could it be that not even the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, the chief magician of the 4 holy places, can stop the spread of this evil power? Subai is aware of the seriousness of the problem. Although he is not a passionate national hero, he is not a coward who gets scared when encountering big problems. If the power of evil continues to spread, it may cover the entire Europe, and even the entire Earth, and Subai will not be able to stay out of it. Diana, it's time for us to set off to find out the source of this evil force. Diana has put down the shattered heavenly shield, with the god-killing sword on her left waist. The thunder turned into a wisp of thunder and lightning, wrapped around her hand in the shape of a bracelet. After a short period of familiarity, Diana was able to thunder is transformed into various simple shapes, used for offense or defense, which is a small function of this artifact. Diana nodded, and just as she was about to set off, she saw Subai's outstretched hands. The phoenix wings can fly at supersonic speeds. Do you want to experience it? Oh, Diana raised her eyebrows. Although she was a little shy, she was not stingy at all. She hugged Subai's waist generously. Let's go. The golden phoenix force fanned out, and an updraft brought the two people into the air. With a deflection, they flew towards the center of the black cloud spreading from them. And in the vast solar system, outside Uranus, there is a demon head bigger than the Earth, burning with blazing flames, with a weird smile on its face, confronting 5 seemingly small people. This demon is uncountable in height, and his fists alone are comparable to stars. Not only is his body covered in dark red flames, but he has no facial features and is filled with flames, which makes him look even more terrifying. This demon is the Lord of the Dark Dimension and one of the most powerful demons in the universe, Dormammu. Dormammu, you can't set foot here. We have already signed an agreement. Your power has threatened the Earth. Do you want to start a war again? The most central one among the 5 figures is the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One. The Ancient One's words were not only devoid of fear, but also filled with strong questioning. The response he got was Dormammu's crazy sneer, "Our agreement is that I will never set foot on the Earth again. But Ancient One, there is one more follower of mine on the Earth." Guess who it is? I'm afraid you're right. Let me tell you, it's your beloved disciple, Caecilius. It turns out that the one who has been secretly trading with Caecilius is none other than the great demon Dormammu. The smile on Dormammu's face suddenly solidified, and there was endless hatred in his voice. I didn't expect that the genius magician of the Magician Association fell into the darkness under the personal guidance of Sorcerer Supreme. Look, how ironic this is. Quote, ha ha ha. Hearing the name Caecilius, Ancient One's eyes drooped slightly, but he still said forcefully, Dormammu, don't challenge the limit of my endurance, just take another step forward. Just become my enemy again. Just the 5 of you. Dormammu's eyes scanned the 5 people. He looked at the Ancient One first and said loudly, "An old sorcerer supreme." Then he looked at the woman in gorgeous clothes on the left side of Ancient One, a big magician whose magic power has just passed. Then he looked at the two chief magicians on the right side of the Ancient One and said contemptuously, "Two of my men have been defeated." Finally, Dormammu turned his attention to the great magician Merlin, and finally said with a hint of caution in his tone, "And, a duplication. You five will not be our opponent." As Dormammu finished speaking, 6 more Mephisto-phantoms appeared outside the solar system. They had dark red skin and all had devil horns. They exuded an astonishing aura. Ancient One snorted coldly, entered the scene with an expression on his face, clasped his hands on his chest, and said softly, "Are you done?" In an instant, a light blue protective shield suddenly opened on the outer layer of the earth. Immediately afterwards, the Ancient One emitted endless golden light and turned into a golden giant sword. In response, it stabbed into the void very quickly. The devil. Dormammu was not afraid, and his body burned with eternal flames. He threw a ball of dark red fire in his hand and collided with Ancient One's golden sword. Then, he let out endless ridicule. "Ancient One, you and me in this fierce battle, who can stop your beloved disciple? Caecilius has traded his soul and become my servant. He will open a passage to the dark dimension space on the earth. Endless demons will come and destroy the entire earth." The Ancient One was unmoved, and the golden light emitted from his body became even stronger, and he said with great confidence, "The earth has never lacked a savior. The earth never lacks a savior." When the Ancient One said these words, Subai was rushing towards the center of evil energy. After flying for a while, he was able to identify the source of the energy, which was exactly the direction of London, England, across the British Channel. Subai thought to himself, "It is true that as Sophia said, all the holy places in London have been captured." The figure of Caecilius appeared in Subai's mind inexplicably. He is probably the only one who can make such a big noise and has this ability. He's already in cahoots with Dormammu. Subai's thoughts were racing and he had a rough guess about what happened. This young man in the middle of the 20s held a grudge against him. Even if Subai didn't take action, he would come to his door. Thinking of this, Subai couldn't help but fly a little faster, but before flying very far, she heard Diana in her arms shouting, "Subai, stop quickly." Subai had some doubts in his heart. Looking down, he found that he had reached the junction of France and Germany, just above a small mountain range. On the hill, there was a large-scale battle going on. Soldiers in German military uniforms shouted, "Emperor Hail," and attacked the fortress built by the French army without hesitation. Soldiers fell down one by one, roars and screams echoed, and the war entered the final stage. Both sides were particularly crazy. At this scene, Diana broke away from Subai's arms and landed on a hilltop. She was suddenly stunned and couldn't believe what she was seeing. She murmured, "Aries is dead, oh." Quote. Subai fell down immediately and asked calmly, "What's wrong?" Diana shook her head and clenched her hands tightly. The poison gas factory was destroyed, the strengthening potion was no longer produced, and Aries died, but nothing stopped. She looked at the two warring parties, feeling particularly bitter. "If you defeat the god of war, you can stop the war and protect the earth. This has been in my mind since I was born, isn't it right?" Subai responded helplessly, "Diana, we should go to the source of evil energy." Diana shook her head, covered her face with her hands, and took several steps back. "No, medical lotus." She didn't want to believe what she was seeing. Aries is dead, and the war between mortals should be over. But why are they still fighting? Why are they still continuing when he can obviously stop? The war is still going on, so killing Aries means nothing. In Diana's mind, Aries is synonymous with war. This is not only a denial of the previous life and death battle, but also a denial of Diana's belief. At the end of the sentence, Diana's voice turned into a low growl, and Subai's was no longer so calm. "Diana, do you really want to know? Maybe this is them, this is human beings. Human beings are not always kind. This has nothing to do with whether there is Aries or not. This is their nature." Subai did not make Diana change her mind immediately. She gradually fell silent and calmed down. If this is really nature, then human beings are killing each other and killing innocent people and children. Diana suddenly thought of the scene of leaving Paradise Island. Hippolyte's words made her body tremble. and her tone was full of disappointment. She is right, my mother is right, the human world is not worth saving. They don't deserve our help. The evil power in the sky is still stirring. Subai closed his eyes tightly, frowned, and took a deep breath. He really didn't want Diana to lose confidence in human beings at this time, when the Earth may be about to be destroyed. Diana, it's not a matter of whether it's worth it. Maybe it's not worth it, but is it important? What matters is what you believe. Backquote, you think I don't understand. You think I didn't tell you when I was on Paradise Island that all this is not the fault of a bad person. You think I don't want to say that if Aries is killed, the war will still continue. Human beings love to fight. You think I don't want to tell you that the world outside Paradise Island is not that beautiful at all. Subai held Diana's shoulders and looked at each other. Diana, we will talk about this later. If you think this world is worth saving, if you want to stop the spread of evil, come with me to stop it now. Because if you don't stop it, more people will die, far more than a huge war. And the evil force will eventually spread, okay Zhao, and no one can stay away safely, even for yourself and for Paradise Island, okay. At this moment, for the first time, Diana saw a ray of love for the world in Subai's eyes, which contained expectation and trust, and Diana was gradually infected. Subai took a step back, stretched out her left hand, and said softly, Diana, it's time for us to go, we must go, you must come with me. If you still want to be Diana. There was a pop sound, and Diana held Subai's hand without hesitation, without a smile on her face. We are together, but I am just here to help you, just because you are Subai. After the episode just now, the atmosphere between the two became obviously more solemn. The death of Aries did not end the war. At the end of the fight against Aries, Diana was no longer simply awakening of divine blood, and her true view of the world gradually changed. As the only witness, Subai didn't know whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. What Subai has to do now is to rush to London to find out the source of the spread of evil power. If it is really Caecilius who is responsible, Subai will definitely not stop it without hesitation. As long as there is a chance, Caecilius will never show mercy to Subai. The two of them flew extremely fast across the English Channel and entered the UK. They could detect a soaring black light pillar directly embedded in the sky. There is a completely different atmosphere on the seaside of the Channel. The European continent is still wondering about the end of World War I and the sudden earthquake, but above the English islands, there is a sense of panic that the end is coming. No scientist can explain what the black beam of light in the sky is. This is not a so-called scientific theory. For the first time, the mysterious side force has been displayed in front of the world on a large scale. The British government had already launched an emergency plan to evacuate all citizens of London. The many air raid shelters and underground military bases built during the war played a huge amount of role. Entering the center of London, only the dead silence was left in the once prosperous big city, and the center of the black light beam emitting evil energy was not in London, but in the southwest. Most of the buildings in the urban area are well preserved, with the exception of one, which formed a huge square pit. This is the location of the original holy place in London. The entire holy place in London has been uprooted or completely destroyed. Subai's eyes were slightly surprised. The power of the small universe spread and no other clues were found near the holy place in London. The only way at the moment is to go to the southwest. If I remember correctly, the southwest of London, England. Subai and Diana shouted almost at the same time, Stonehenge. In the entire history of mankind, the most famous and mysterious prehistoric monument is Stonehenge. This huge amount of stone complex is located in an open field and consists of many single blocks of sandstone, each weighing approximately 50 tons. No one knows what means people used to build Stonehenge 4000 BC, and even scientists can't make reasonable guesses. Obviously, many problems cannot be solved by science. Flying towards Stonehenge, you can see many magicians floating in the sky, and the black light beam is much wider than expected, nearly the size of 10 football fields. Those extremely evil energies emanate from the core of Stonehenge and radiate throughout Europe. Subai looked at the black light pillar and could clearly see the slightly crazy figure of Caecilius at the bottom of the light pillar and at the center of Stonehenge. From time to time, his crazy laughter could be heard, but no one could step forward to stop him. Subai and Diana, who seemed out of place with the magicians, soon attracted the attention of other magicians, including Sophia. Seeing Subai and Diana appear, Sophia finally breathed a sigh of relief. Sophia, who arrived earlier than Subai, had already tried various methods to break through into the Black Light Pillar, or AJCE, to prevent the Black Light Pillar from continuing to emit evil energy. But there is no way. This Black Light Pillar is not only a large teleportation circle, but also a magic barrier on the outside. The majestic magic power surges, making it difficult to even get close. Using long-range magic attacks, the effect is even weaker. Destroying the Black Light Pillar is somewhat out of the question. The magicians are building a large space array in an attempt to control this space, but Sophia knows clearly that all this is in vain. Stonehenge contains secrets about the entire Earth. Looking up into the dark clouds, I could already see that a vague dark door appeared in the clouds, gradually becoming clearer, as if it would open in the next second. It won't take long for Caecilius' teleportation circle to be completed. You can imagine how many demon descendants will emerge from that door. What makes Sophia even more panicked is that the other 3 holy places have received the notice and are rushing to support. At the same time, they have passed on information. Not only Merlin, but also the other chief magicians disappeared half a day ago. Although she seemed to have the guts to apologize to Subai at the time, Sophia discovered a fact that made her even more embarrassed. The only person who can still rely on the holy place in London is Subai. In her heart, she was actually afraid that Subai would ignore this major matter. In her opinion, Subai was probably the only big shot that could solve this matter. The holy place in London was destroyed, and even the chief magicians were nowhere to be seen. To put it in the simplest terms, the magicians suddenly had no backers. This time the crisis needs to be solved by themselves. It's a pity that their power is far from enough. The only one who has hope of becoming a hero is not a magician. When Subai landed, he didn't pay attention to the magicians, but passed through many obstacles and focused on Caecilius. As if sensing something, Caecilius with the black beam of light also turned his head at this moment and met Subai's eyes. Ha 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 ha, you are finally here, Subai. Thanks to you, I have become a great dark magician, a disciple of the Dark Lord Dormammu. Enjoy the last time of your life, the night is coming and the devil is coming. Caecilius's arrogance made Subai frown slightly. At the same time, the prompt of the Wheel of Time appeared in his mind. Congratulations, Master, for triggering the main quest, defeat Caecilius. Caecilius colludes with Dormammu and is about to use the energy matrix of Stonehenge to build a portal to the dark dimension. The Earth is in a huge crisis. Caecilius has the highest hatred for his master, and there are 11 hours and 21 minutes left for the portal to open. Kill Caecilius and successfully close the portal. You will receive exchange points, 20,000 points. Does the master accept the mission? Accept. Although the rewards are rich, it is not easy to defeat the current Caecilius, and the Wheel of Time gives additional information. Stonehenge is actually an energy matrix. What's the secret in it? Subai didn't think too much about it for the time being, and tried blocking the black light beam first, then. A faint red light emerged from the Phoenix sacred cloth, and an extremely powerful force gathered on him, instantly frightening all the nearby magicians. There are nearly 300 magicians, some of whom have fought against Aries with Subai. This time they looked at Subai with nervous and uneasy eyes. Others dared to come from all over the world. Most of them saw such tyrannical strength for the first time. They couldn't help but swallowed their saliva. At the prompts of others, they hurriedly moved away from Subai. That's Subai. If you don't want to be affected, you'd better stay away from him. 2 hours ago, I saw with my own eyes that Subai destroyed Aries and punched a big gap in the entire Alps. What? You don't believe it? If you can still survive, you can go and see for yourself. Is Subai going to show off his power again? Various exclamations sounded, and the focus suddenly shifted from the black beam of light to Subai. Even Caecilius stopped his arrogant smile, snorted coldly, and stared at Subai, his eyes full of defense. Subai's small universe climbed steadily, reaching a peak with the blessing of the new holy clothes. Just standing still, a powerful cyclone formed around him. At the same time, the pressure coming from Subai was getting bigger and bigger. Diana beside her was a little surprised and felt that it was inconvenient to move her body. Not to mention the magicians who were whispering just now, all closed their mouths and looked at everything in front of them in awe. The suppressive power displayed by Subai far exceeded all the magicians present. This was a powerful force they had never experienced before. It was as vast as the universe and full of destructive power. As for Caecilius in the black beam of light, the black mana coming from his body also began to surge. At this moment, Subai raised his hands above his head, and the nearly complete galaxy starburst was unleashed again. As Subai opened his hands, an unparalleled force suddenly descended, horizontally bombarding the black light pillar. Pure white and pure black blend and consume each other, and the powerful impact spreads, overturning the land. Those magicians who were still floating in the air and wanted to watch the show were directly blown away by the overflowing power. They did countless somersaults in the air, and then fell to the ground hard, letting out countless wails. Pieces of black fragments appeared, and the outer barrier surrounding the black light pillar began to break. Even the black light pillar was distorted and shape-shifted, as if it was about to be broken. But black magic power keeps coming out of Caecilius, crazily filling and repairing all the loopholes. At this time, there was lightning and thunder in the sky, and Diana, who was holding the thunder, also roared angrily, and dozens of giant thunders descended. The terrifying destructive power and energy bombardment made people's hairs stand on end. Caecilius, who was in the black beam of light, was wrapped in black mist. His body began to grow slowly, becoming 3 meters tall. A pair of dark red devil horns appeared on his forehead, and a pair of devil wings were torn out from behind, releasing the magic power expanded tenfold out of thin air. The black light pillar that originally seemed to be crumbling, under the new magical blessing, returned to its indestructible appearance, and actually melted all the energy of the galaxy starburst and the bombardment of thunder. When the color returned to the eyeballs, the black beam of light still penetrated into the sky, and Caecilius' wild laughter came. Subai, there is nothing you can do, you can just wait for death with peace of mind. It was indeed the first time that he was able to withstand the bombardment of the Milky Way starburst without any damage, but Subai was not much surprised. He had already been mentally prepared because of the energy matrix. At this time, Sophia fell to Subai's side and said with a complex expression, "Mr. Subai, I'm sorry for my previous stubbornness, but there is one thing I must tell you. It's about Stonehenge." Sophia once again misjudged Subai's strength, or in other words, Subai's strength increased again. Originally, she wanted to wait until Subai was frustrated and helpless before talking to her, so that she could be more proactive. Unexpectedly, Subai almost broke through the black beam of light with a nonchalant look on his face. Fortunately, he still had some backup plans. Knowing that she couldn't afford the delay, Sophia simply apologized to Subai and admitted her mistake. "This is a secret told to me by Merlin, the great magician himself. The geographical location of Stonehenge is very special. It actually leads to the core of the earth. And I don't know who exists who set up an energy matrix on Stonehenge. The energy matrix can extract the energy of the Earth's star core, allowing the user's ability to be geometrically enhanced. The original energy matrix did not have any protection. After it was discovered by Merlin magician 2000 years ago, the highest level defensive array was added, but unexpectedly, it was cracked by Caecilius. Caecilius is a disciple of the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, and has dominated the holy place in London for a long time. It is not too surprising that he knows the existence of the energy matrix. But how Caecilius cracked Merlin's defensive circle needs to be explored. The energy matrix can constantly draw out the energy of the star core, almost endlessly. The only drawback is that if you leave the range of Stonehenge, the energy matrix will immediately become ineffective. And Caecilius threw himself into the darkness, signed a contract with the devil, and was able to constantly draw magic power from the source of the dark dimension. It is precisely because of this that Caecilius has enough magic power to build such a huge teleportation array. Sophia looked at the figure in the black beam of light, the magic genius who once responded to everything, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. I'm afraid no one could have imagined that Caecilius would degenerate so quickly. Do you know how to use the energy matrix? Subai frowned slightly after listening to Sophia's story. Unexpectedly, the energy matrix was more powerful than imagined. No wonder even the energy of the galaxy starburst was consumed. Sophia looked bitter. The existence of the energy matrix was originally one of the highest level secrets of the Magician Association. The method of opening the energy matrix is known only to the Sorcerer Supreme and the Holy Place Chief Magician. Subai's pupils shrank, and he instinctively felt something fishy. Since it was a secret of the highest level and not passed on to the public, how did Caecilius know about it? There were so many doubts in his mind that Subai could only put them down temporarily. He looked at the black beam of light rushing into the sky and finally made a decision in his heart. Fortunately, Caecilius will not leave the energy matrix, and most of his mana is used to build and maintain the teleportation array to prevent harassment from the outside world. Subai still has enough time. Walk. To Sophia's surprise, after she poured out her secret, Subai said the word she least wanted to hear, leave. While Sophia was still wondering if she heard it wrong, Subai had already held Diana's hand, flapped the golden wings behind her, and disappeared into the sky at an extremely fast speed. At this moment, Sophia was completely confused. Subai didn't play according to the routine at all. You thought he was a hero of justice, but he immediately slapped you in the face and said, let you know what Stinky Lulin is. Every time in front of Subai, Sophia felt extremely aggrieved, almost going crazy. In just a moment, Subai was flying so fast that he couldn't even find his shadow, and Sophia jumped in anger. After breathing heavily, Sophia looked at the black beam of light. A flash of determination flashed in her eyes, returned to her post, and began to discuss countermeasures with other magician leaders, even though she was already upset. Subai won't really leave, right? Are we really just going to leave like this? After Subai flew a very long distance, he landed in a small town. The streets were already deserted. Only 2 old sheep that had not come to take them away were still making noises in the sheepfold. Diana asked again, really leave? Ignore all this. Subai chuckled lightly. Although she had known for a long time that Diana was a little tsundere, she still couldn't help but feel happy in her heart. Aren't you disappointed in human beings? Diana was choked. To be honest, the moment she crossed the French-German border, she was extremely disappointed with humanity. But as soon as she got closer to London, looking at the panicked crowds and the empty and messy streets, Diana's memory suddenly became confused, and many fragments of her life in London emerged. There were some things that Diana found beautiful and unwilling to lose. The balance in her heart was still shaking, so she gave another reason, that's Caecilius. He once wanted to murder us, and we also got him into the magical dungeon, but it is obvious that he has no intention of repenting, but instead wants to tear us into pieces. We cannot just walk away. Subai nodded, we definitely can't just leave, but I still need some time. After saying that, Subai sat cross-legged under a tree, integrate that ray of power of the origin of the world, war. At the same time, in a world called Asgard, stars shine, countless high-tech buildings stand, and are surrounded by huge amounts of walls. Outside the walls, the extremely gorgeous Bifrost extends to the stars, linking different dimensional spaces. There is the patron Saint Heimdall on Bifrost with a golden giant sword in his hand. He has the best senses. Whether it is the battle between the Ancient One and Dormammu, or the dark power spreading crazily on the earth, everything falls into his eyes. Suddenly, he spoke to the void beside him. The Magician Association is in big trouble, and demons have begun to invade again. The entire Midgard will be covered by dark power. It is one of the 9 realms, Midgard of the World Tree. The Aesir gods really didn't get involved and allowed the evil spirits to wreak havoc. No one was seen, and a distant voice was heard, Hildum, you have forgotten the war 1,000 years ago. Hildum, you have forgotten the war 1,000 years ago. If you have not forgotten, you should remember how the first Sorcerer Supreme on Midgard at that time expelled the Aesir Protoss and established the Aesir Protoss. I made a sad oath not to interfere in the mortal affairs of Midgard. The voice seemed to be right next to my ears, but it also seemed to come from a very far away place. It seemed like it was announcing to the world, but only one person heard it. Hildum sighed in his heart, knowing that Odin, the god king of the Aesir clan, was still brooding about what happened 1,000 years ago, and the memories in his mind flashed by. In 965 AD, the giants of Jotunheim tried to invade other worlds and fought a decisive battle with the Aesir in Midgard. During the war, Odin was enveloped in strange blue energy and was unstoppable. He easily killed a large number of giants of Jotunheim, but was also blinded in his right eye by a sneak attack by giants of Jotunheim due to his carelessness. But Odin won, and the ancient winter coffin, the energy source of the frost giant, was also taken away and became a collection of the Aesir. After the war, the Sorcerer Supreme appeared on Midgard and demanded that the entire Nordic pantheon, whether the Aesir, the giants of Jotunheim, or others, were not allowed to enter the mortal world again. Because the two sides caused great damage during the war and used the ancient winter coffin, Midgard fell into an ice age. It was recorded as the Little Ice Age by humans and resulted in the death of countless mortals. At that time, Odin was at his peak and could not possibly agree. The first Sorcerer Supreme was so powerful that even the entire Nordic pantheon was not worth mentioning in his eyes. That was the biggest shame in Odin's life, and he was expelled as an alien again. The entire Nordic pantheon was indeed alien, and it was not until around the 1st century AD that they began to operate on the earth, and that is when Norse mythology began to circulate. Helldom definitely knew Odin's embarrassment at that time, and responded, "But this is not a mortal matter, it is the devil from the dark dimension who is invading. How important Midgard is, you should know better than me." Odin was silent for a long time, seeming to be thinking about Heldom's suggestion. If the Magician Association cannot solve this crisis, it will indeed be a good opportunity for the Aesir Protoss to return to Midgard. After a while, the voice came out again, "There are too many magicians in Midgard." Haldum understood that Odin had the idea of preventing the invasion of demons, but he would not make it easy for the Magician Association. I am afraid that he would not come to rescue until there were heavy casualties. But as long as the demons of Midgard are driven away, for Helldom, the goal has been achieved. Time flies by, and 9 hours have passed since Subai sat down cross-legged. As the night falls, the black beam of light becomes even more terrifying. The evil dark power has covered the entire sky over the English islands, plunging tens of millions of people into panic. Diana, who was guarding Subai's side, was a little worried, but not too anxious. The last time she dealt with Aries, Subai had done this. Diana had already regarded this as a saint warrior training. Dedicated way. Diana only needed to continue to wait, but not long after, she heard a click sound, and the dark power spreading everywhere suddenly concentrated in the direction of Stonehenge. In the night sky, the black door leading to the dark dimension was close to materializing. It shook wildly twice just now, making people feel like a creature was kicking the door behind. The number of magicians gathered around Stonehenge has reached nearly 1,000. The Magician Association has mobilized most of its forces from all over the world to deal with this Earth crisis. Everyone involved was staring at the black door eagerly. In the past 9 hours, they tried all methods and various types of spells, but they were unable to break through the black light pillar constructed by Caecilius. Nervousness, fear, and even a hint of despair spread among the thousands of magicians, like prisoners about to be judged, confused and unaware of their fate. Caecilius is one of the best magicians of this era, so he was included in the Door of the Ancient One. He is very clear about the tricks used by the magicians. Under the constant installation of the energy matrix and the power of darkness, unless he is willing, otherwise none of the magicians on site were able to enter the black beam of light. Ha 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 ha. Caecilius's proud laughter spread out, as if he was back to his usual glory days and became the center of everyone's attention. He enjoyed this feeling very much, but the real devil was about to come. However, Caecilius looked around, but did not find Subai, and felt a little uneasy. In Caecilius's mind, Subai is undoubtedly the number one enemy. Subai gave up so easily. There must be a scam. You must be careful. Among the magician group whose morale seems to be low, there is also a group of people who are looking forward to Subai's return, including Sophia, who witnessed Subai's departure. Subai won't really leave, will he? He won't give up. Of this planet, he and Diana will definitely come back. Sophia didn't know whether it was to comfort herself, or she really regarded Subai as the last life-saving straw, and silently began to pray. At this time, another boom sounded. The giant black door in the night sky finally opened a small crack. The giant black door was kicked open rather than opened. The demons from the dark dimension have been impatient for a long time. This small crack is enough for some low-level demons to get out. At this moment, Caecilius's face was distorted, his mouth was filled with an arrogant smile, and the devil's horn hidden on his forehead emerged again, releasing more powerful dark power. And some smaller demons rushed crazily into the unstable transmission channel and descended into Stonehenge through the black light pillar. The dark red wave spread, and how many low-level demons poured out of it? Continuous and uncountable, like a worm squirming. After landing, it rushed madly towards the world outside the black light pillar. The first group of demons that descended were divided into two categories: the cowardly demons who climbed on the ground like wild dogs and were naturally dull, and the lemur demons, which had a disgusting appearance and were composed of a large number of amorphous, trembling pieces of flesh. Both cowards and lemures are low-level creatures in the dark dimensional world. The former are ineffective in fighting and rely on human sea tactics to win. They are very afraid of higher demons that are more powerful than them. This fear even surpasses death. The lemures are formed from cursed souls, trapped in a pile of tumorous flesh. Only their gnarled limbs can move according to their will. These low-level demons entered the human world. There was no longer the pungent smell of sulfur in the air. Instead, they smelled the freshness of the human body. They all entered a violent state and rushed forward crazily. At this moment, Sophia's roar spread throughout the Thorsbo plain where Stonehenge is located. The brilliant, day-like white light formed an eggshell-shaped semicircular array, covering the entire plain, emitting endless light and heat, ruthlessly tearing the bodies of these low-level demons, and in the blink of an eye, they were nearly 10,000 demons were reduced to ashes. Knowing that Caecilius' madness could not be stopped, the magicians found another way and set up countless attack formations while anxiously waiting for the demons' invasion. They can only hope to destroy more demons and delay enough time until the big magicians of the Magician Association arrive. This trick really worked. The only flaw was that there was a hole in the center of this eggshell-shaped semicircular array, which was the black light pillar that shot into the sky. Even if it can kill the demon, there is no end to the black light that pours out. It is this black beam of light that prevents the magicians from displaying the mirror space and allowing them to take more initiative. The energy contained in it is too powerful, constantly destroying low-level demons. The magicians' mana is consumed at an extremely fast speed, and the giant black door in the sky is still slowly opening, and one can already get a glimpse of the situation inside, which is endless dark red, waiting. The giant black door opened a little more, and the teleportation circle became more stable, and a new demon, the spiked demon, immediately emerged from it. This kind of dark red-skinned demon is 2 meters tall and has a lean body, but its whole body is covered with dense and varied sharp spikes. They love the feeling of warm blood flowing between their spikes, so they especially like to look for people close to them on the battlefield, opportunity to fight. Having escaped from the lowest level of demons, they are already able to use the immobilization technique to make sneak attacks. The addition of the spiked demons made the battle more difficult. Some demons had already resisted the first wave of damage and rushed out of the white light like a meat grinder. Various spells were flying in the sky, and mana fluctuations spread out. Before long, there were already casualties among the magicians who came forward. There are simply too many demons, and what makes the magicians even more desperate is that the black door is still slowly opening, and new types of demons are rushing out of the black light pillar. The generals who control the greedy demon army, 6-armed snake demons, are 6 meters tall and weigh 2 tons. They are half human and half snake. They hold a long sword in each hand. They are arrogant, because no matter in close combat, skills, or dark spells, Mujao Snake Demon is proficient in them all. The emergence of the 6-armed snake demon became the last straw for the magicians. Under the command of the 6-armed snake demon, the entire battlefield was gradually divided. It won't take long before the magicians will be wiped out in the sea of demons. Then occupy the entire British Isles and start a war to destroy the earth. But just when the magicians were desperate, there was a sudden, rumbling, thunder, covering the entire Thorsbo plain. The thunder overwhelmed all the roars on the battlefield, and the excitement was thunder and lightning tore half of the night sky apart. The powerful thunder light illuminated the darkness, and a giant thunder struck down. Then, the entire battlefield turned into a thunder and lightning purgatory. Thunder and light are the types of energy that demons fear most. The endless thunder falling down makes people mistakenly think that Thor is coming and will administer justice. Only Sophia and the elite magicians in London suddenly felt ecstatic. They had seen this scene before, and they had firmly believed that it would happen again. They couldn't help shouting loudly, "It's Diana's thunder, Diana is here, it's white." "Hold on, There is hope for your life. Sophia was not mistaken. The thunder and lightning that seemed to destroy the world was sent by Diana. In the night sky illuminated by lightning, Diana's figure suddenly fell to the ground, and the thunder turned into the most elite spear, piercing the earth without any hindrance. Endless thunder burst out, and the extremely powerful thunder force ripped apart the earth with Diana as the center of the circle, pulling out dozens of 20-meter deep ravines, rushing in all directions. Lightning flashed and thundered in the night sky, thunder flowers bloomed on the ground, and the entire battlefield instantly turned into a purgatory of thunder. Even if the six-armed snake demon surged out of the black light pillar, it was difficult to resist the blue and white thunder and lightning. On Bifrost, Heldam, who had been paying attention to the battlefield, couldn't help but let out a sigh. Beside him, Odin, the god king of the Aesir clan, also revealed his figure. This god king wears a gray-black armor, the same color as his eye patch. He holds a scepter tightly in his right hand and has a distant gaze, making it difficult to guess his thoughts. If I'm not mistaken, that artifact is the thunder of my old friend Zeus. Odin was quite impressed. He and Zeus, another god king, had had the experience of fighting together. He felt sad about the divine war in the Greek pantheon 100 years ago. That divine battle took place on Mount Olympus, and even Heldam had a hard time spying on it. After the war, Zeus disappeared. During that period of time, Odin even inquired about a lot of news about Zeus. Now, Diana appears in the world with thunder and displays great power. She must be the descendant of Zeus. Even Odin can't help but show up and want to see clearly. It's somewhat similar to Thor. The way Diana fought bravely made Odin want his beloved son, Thor. The thoughts in his mind were racing, and he suddenly asked Heldam, "Is Thor still in Asgard?" A green light appeared in Hyrdam's eyes, and he spoke the next second. "After returning from the battle, I am drinking and having fun with the warriors." Odin nodded, a little dissatisfied in his heart, but a smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth. The moment he saw Diana, a plan that would go with the flow had already entered the depths of his mind. On the plains of Thorsberg, Diana waved her thunder, and once again sent out a huge thunder, scattering a six-armed snake demon. Because of Diana's strong attack and the surge of the demon tide, a small area actually appeared, gap. Only at this time could Sophia take time out and land safely next to Diana. "Where's Subai?" Sophia's tone was urgent. Diana's performance was definitely outstanding, changing the entire battle situation in a short time. But in Sophia's heart, it has always been Subai who has the final say in ability. Only Subai's galaxy starburst can make Caecilius and the devil stop shouting. Diana frowned slightly. In fact, she had no choice but to rush over. Although she sensed that the war at Stonehenge was extremely urgent, Diana had no intention of taking action immediately. In her opinion, protecting Subai is more important. As long as Subai can wake up, the war situation can be restored soon. But not long ago, Subai, who had her eyes closed tightly, exuded a powerful pressure that made Diana feel suffocated. The power emanating from Subai became stronger and stronger, gradually surpassing Diana's cognition, and finally directly ejected Diana, unable to even get close. In desperation, Anna went to the battlefield first. "He dares to come right away." Diana didn't have the confidence in her heart, but she was willing to believe Subai. She looked at the dark door in the night sky and saw that it had been pushed open halfway. After the six-armed snake demon, a larger figure finally appeared. The entire ground trembled, and a 30-meter-high demonic figure emerged from the black light pillar. There are folk legends about demons, and most of the descriptions are huge amounts of flames and evil thoughts, with devil horns on the top of the head, equipped with long swords and whips. This demon that the people fear is the Balur fire demon in front of us, the commander of this demon army. As soon as the Balur fire demon walked out of the teleportation array, he roared angrily and swung out the flaming sword in his hand. 4 flaming storms swept across, madly absorbing and counteracting the power of the thunder. The Balur fire demon is already extremely powerful, and this one is the king of the clan, a high-level demon lord. The power emanating from him actually made Diana feel pressured, not to mention the other magicians, whose eyes were full of fear. Some low-level lemurace and timid demons even stopped fighting and crouched on the ground trembling. Because among the black light pillars, 3 more Balur fire demons walked out. The entire battlefield was filled with the power of the Balur fire demon. At this moment, Odin chuckled and said to Hyrdam beside him, "Immediately send an order to Thor to lead a group of elite warriors to the battlefield. In his opinion, it is time for the Aesir to appear." But before Odin could finish his words, the situation on the battlefield changed dramatically again. A phoenix cry suddenly came out and disappeared quickly. When no one had high hopes, a man wearing a gorgeous armor with golden wings stretched out behind him suddenly appeared above the battlefield. Huge amounts of phoenix shadow appeared behind him, dyeing the entire night sky red. More than one person exclaimed, and at the same time shouted the two words, "Subai." The sudden appearance of Subai shocked the entire battlefield. The magicians all raised their heads and looked up at the sky, staring at this strange scene. On the battlefield where demons were raging, flaming phoenixes volleyed in the sky, and the savior-like Subai stretched out her golden wings. The mighty energy gathered in her body, sending out unstoppable pressure. Even the powerful Balur fire demon lord couldn't help but tremble after feeling Subai's power. He knew that the human being in front of him was the most powerful being on this battlefield. But the Balur fire demon clan never flinched. They waved the giant flame sword in their hands, and a stream of hot flames burst out. The flame wind, 167, followed closely, trying to completely burn Subai. An undetectable smile appeared on the corner of Subai's mouth, and he waved his left hand slightly. All the blazing heat turned into a red thread, condensed in the palm of Subai's hand, and turned into a small flame. He clenched his left hand, then it completely disappeared from the palm of my hand. The entire battlefield was silent. Those magicians watched in silence as Subai easily diffused the attack. In terms of controlling the fire element, Subai actually surpassed the Balur fire demon. Before they could react, the phantom of the fire phoenix behind Subai became more and more solid. There was no need to deliberately gather strength. The golden wings flapped slightly, and the phoenix wings flew out easily. The powerful impact spread, crushing tens of thousands of low-level demons in an instant, and a straight line without any living creatures was cleared on the entire plain. Feng Yi Tianxiang's ultimate target was naturally Lord Balur. Sensing the power of Subai, all four Balur fire demons gathered into a group, gathered their strength, and formed a giant flame shield. When they clashed with Feng Yi Tianxiang, countless cracks appeared, barely resisting Subai's random attack. After the offensive, they still retreated hundreds of meters. In the night sky, Subai's relaxed look and strength not only surprised Sophia, but also Diana was shocked. In a short time, Su's strength increased again. A step after obtaining thunder and awakening the power to control thunder and lightning, Diana thought that the strength of the two was close. Unexpectedly, the gap suddenly widened again, and she could only look at Subai's back, as if she could never catch up. Subai's progress is really terrifying. But what they didn't know was that Feng Yi Tianxiang just now was just a small test of his skills. Subai was not serious at all. The power of the vast and majestic small universe began to burn. This time, a little golden light condensed in Subai's hand. This golden light was not a phoenix wing flying to the sky, nor a galaxy starburst, but one of Virgo's unique skills, the surrender of the devil. 25,000 exchange points were used by Subai to redeem the unique skills and secrets of the Virgo Golden Saint. Subai's small universe has advanced to the late stage of the sixth sense after integrating the origin of the world of war. The golden light in his hand grew rapidly, then divided into four, turning into four golden light shadows, and bombarded the four Balur fire demons. The Balur, who is almost invincible in the eyes of all magicians, the Balur that even Diana finds troublesome, and the Balur that Odin thinks should be dealt with by Thor, shows no resistance or even any reaction. When he came over, he was hit by golden light and shadow. Before they even had time to scream, the expressions of the four Balur fire demons all froze, full of shock and fear. They spread despair to the world. Before they perished, they finally realized what true despair was and instantly turned into golden light spots, disappeared from the world. It was deathly silent. At this moment, not even the demon army, numbering close to 500,000, dared to make any sound. Their commander was so easily killed by Subai. No one expected that Subai's extremely fast and seemingly casual blow would kill four Balur Balrogs at the same time. Not only Diana and Sophia, but also Cassius, who was standing in the black light pillar and struggling to support the portal, had a look of astonishment and disbelief on his face. As Subai's opponent, when Subai really appeared, Caecilius's brows were already tense. He definitely knew how powerful Subai was, but he didn't expect that Subai was so powerful. In the original plan, the Barlow Flame Demon, as one of the strongest demon races this time, was teleported through the teleportation array. Caecilius struggled for so long, and finally opened the transmission channel, allowing the 4 Balur Balrogs to reach the Earth. Was he just wiped out by Subai? So what was Caecilius for? One of the greatest achievements of his hard work for so long was just gone. Caecilius was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. At the same time, his heart trembled. He looked at Subai with a hint of fear. Last time at the holy place in London, Caecilius could see the hope of defeating Subai, and even declared in his heart that if there was no Merlin magician present, he and Subai would fight, and the two would be equal, and he only regretted that he did not become a civilian. And now, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.